Chapter 29:37. Ling Xiao thought for a moment and walked forward. However, the woman also walked forward. When Ling Xiao walked, she would walk. When Ling Xiao stopped, she would stop. She kept following behind Ling Xiao and was less than a meter away from him. Master, I suspect that she's the Xian Tian Celestial Lord. The heaven-devouring rat said. Oh, how so? Ling Xiao asked. Tens of millions of years ago, the Xian Tian Celestial Lord was invincible in the celestial world. She was known as the most dazzling genius of that era and the most promising peerless genius to become an immortal emperor. She and the Xian Tian sect she founded even wanted to be one of the 9 great celestial sects. However, she offended an important figure and died. The Xian Tian sect was completely annihilated. However, tens of millions of years ago, the Xian Tian Celestial Lord was already a peerless celestial lord and stood at the peak of the celestial lord realm. How powerful is the person who killed her? The heaven-devouring rat said respectfully as he stole a glance at the lady. You mean, an immortal emperor? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. Perhaps only an immortal emperor could suppress the Xian Tian Celestial Lord and annihilate the Xian Tian sect. That's right. The important figure the Xian Tian Celestial Lord offended should be an immortal emperor. Legend has it that when the Xian Tian Celestial Lord died, her soul was destroyed and only her physical body was left. Therefore, it was sealed in the divine jade immortal fetus. The lady in front of us is very similar to the Xian Tian Celestial Lord. Both of them have strong physical bodies but weak souls. The heaven-devouring rat said with a nod. Her soul was destroyed? If the Xian Tian Celestial Lord's soul was really destroyed tens of millions of years ago, then the weak soul in her sea of consciousness might have been reborn in her physical body after tens of millions of years? However, can she still be the Xian Tian Celestial Lord? Ling Xiao sighed softly. The so-called reincarnation was nothing more than a beautiful wish. The reincarnation of the almighty experts was actually the indestructible primordial spirit fusing with the baby's body. It was similar to possession. However, Jiang Yuyang was an exception. Jiang Yuyang seemed to have lived 9 lives, but even he couldn't tell how he reincarnated. Mr. Lei Ling, the Xian Tian Celestial Lord is quite pitiful. If she is willing to follow you, please take good care of her. There was a trace of sympathy in Xie Wushuang's eyes. That's the only way. Ling Xiao said with a wry smile. He did not expect that the result would be like this. I just didn't expect the Xian Tian Immortal Lord to cause such a huge commotion and destroy the immortal stone and immortal jade fetus in the heavenly character courtyard. Ling Xiao looked at Xie Wushuang apologetically. This was the heaven-type courtyard. A few hundred immortal stones added together was worth at least a few 100 million immortal crystals. Now, all of it had been destroyed by this woman. It's all right. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have obtained the Qinyuan stone store, and my Xie clan's mysterious yellow stone store would have been lost. Just take this as your reward. You don't have to worry about it. Xie Wushuang waved his hand and said in a carefree manner. In that case, thank you very much. Ling Xiao nodded and said, let's leave this place first. I'm afraid that many people in the immortal ancient city are watching us. If the heaven-type courtyard is sealed for too long, I'm afraid that others will notice something wrong. Xie Wushuang said, all right. Just as well, I want to meet Madame Fuyao. Ling Xiao said with a strange light in his eyes. Are you sure that Madame Fuyao won't do you any harm? Xie Wushuang asked curiously. Although she did not like Madame Fuyao, she also understood the strength of the ancient god cult and the terrifying power that Madame Fuyao possessed. Not to mention Ling Xiao, even her Xie clan had no room to resist. I don't think so, Ling Xiao said with a wry smile. Although he really did not want to see Madame Fuyao, since things had come to this, he could only brace himself and go over. The formation boundary that shrouded the heaven-type courtyard disappeared. Ling Xiao and Xie Wushuang left the Qinyuan stone store together and headed for the Xie clan. The Xian Tian Celestial Master also followed Ling Xiao like the most loyal guard. In the depths of the immortal ancient city, there were 2 palace-like buildings. They were grand and magnificent, shrouded in bright immortal light and surrounded by auspicious qi. They were like the palaces of the celestial emperors. These were the residences of the Xie clan and the Shi clan. In the Shi clan, in the palace where Shi Wuji lived. Bang, bang, bang. In the palace, many precious jade, glazed, and crystal lamps were smashed to pieces. Outside the palace, there were many maids kneeling and trembling. Shi Wuji's face was livid and his eyes were surging with anger. It took a long time before he gradually calmed down. Inside the palace, there were Shi and Immortal, Shi Tianning, Shi Qingyi, Ren Xiaoyao, and the others. That bitch Fuyao humiliated our Shi clan. Does she really think that the ancient god cult can kill us? Sooner or later, I will make that bitch beg for death. Shi Wuji said with a gloomy expression. We are so close to the Alcade Immortal sect, so it's not surprising that the ancient god cult saw through us. The Xie clan and the Shi clan have worked for the ancient god cult for many years, but the ancient god cult has always treated us like grass and killed us at will. The Xie clan is blindly loyal and refused to betray the ancient god cult. Now that the stone opening ceremony is coming, it's not surprising that they asked the ancient god cult for help. I just didn't expect that the person who came this time would be Fuyao. Shi and Immortal frowned and said, Martial granduncle, big brother, that bitch Fuyao came to the immortal ancient city. Could it be that she noticed something? Why don't we go all the way and send the experts in our clan to kill that bitch? Shi Tianying's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. But now is not the time to alert the enemy. After the stone opening ceremony, our Shi clan will completely control the immortal ancient city. At that time, even Fuyao will die. Now we need to be patient. Shi Qingyi shook her head and said, Junior sister Qingyi is right. Now is not the time to act rashly. We can't let the ancient god cult notice anything strange. If they notice any clues about the treasures under the immortal ancient city, it will be difficult to deal with them. Let's wait patiently for a few days. After the stone opening ceremony, the Shi clan will control the immortal ancient city. At that time, we will use thunderous means to wipe out the Xie clan and the ancient god cult. Then, no one can stop us from exploring the treasures below. Ren Xiaoyao's eyes flashed and he said with a smile. Then let's wait patiently for a few more days. The Jie family must be destroyed and that Lei Ling must die too. I want those two sluts, Jie Wushuang and Fu Yao, to become my toys. I want them to understand the consequences of going against me, Shi Wuji. Shi Wuji said indifferently with a gloomy look. Since Brother Wuji has such a refined interest, it is Xie Wushuang and Fu Yao's honor. Don't worry, with the protection of the Alcade Immortal sect, even if the ancient god cult makes trouble, they can't do anything to the Shi clan. Ren Xiaoyao said with a smile. Although he looked gentle, there was a kind of arrogance between his eyebrows, as if everything was under his control. P.S. It's finally the holiday. Happy holiday, everyone. Tomorrow is the May Day holiday. Muyu won't go out to play these days. She will concentrate on writing at home and strive for more. The Summit. Chapter 2938. Xie Family, Rain Listening Pavilion. The Rain Listening Pavilion was the most honorable pavilion in the Jie family. It was usually sealed off and prohibited from entering. But now, Madame Fuyao was staying in Rain Listening Pavilion. Ling Xiao and Xie Wushuang came to Xie family and walked to Rain Listening Pavilion. Brother Lei Ling, Madame Fuyao is inside. Go on in. I'll be outside. If there's any problem, just shout. Xie Wushuang stopped and said to Ling Xiao slowly. Thank you, Fairy Wushuang. I think there shouldn't be any problems. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Sky-devouring rat naturally stayed outside Rain Listening Pavilion. Only Xian Tian Immortal Lord acted as though he didn't hear anything and continued to follow Ling Xiao into Rain Listening Pavilion. Stop! Outside Rain Listening Pavilion were Madame Fuyao and her 4 beautiful maidservants. Their faces were cold as they scolded. Madame has ordered that only Lei Ling is allowed to enter. The rest must stay outside Rain Listening Pavilion. Ling Xiao was taken aback and suddenly felt a headache coming on. This Xian Tian Immortal Lord didn't have any consciousness. Even if Ling Xiao told her something, she wouldn't be able to do anything. If she insisted on entering Rain Listening Pavilion, what should he do? Miss Xiantian, how about you stay outside Rain Listening Pavilion and wait for me? I'll be out in a while. Ling Xiao whispered to Xiantian Immortal Lord. But Xiantian Immortal Lord was indifferent. His eyes were empty as though he didn't hear what Ling Xiao said. He knew it. Ling Xiao shook his head, and then he clasped his hands towards the 4 female attendants and bowed. This is my attendant, Xiantian. There's something wrong with her head, so I can't order her around. How about you let her come with me? Madam has ordered that only you are allowed to enter. If anyone else dares to enter Rain Listening Pavilion, kill them. A beautiful maidservant said coldly. Clang, clang, clang. Just as she finished her sentence, the sound of swords rang out. It was clear as a dragon's roar. The 4 maidservants drew their swords at the same time. The sword radiance was sharp and pointed at Xiantian Immortal Lord. Not good. Ling Zhao's eyes twitched as he knew something was wrong. Boom. Just at this moment, the profound Heaven Immortal Lord seemed to have sensed the hostility. Instantly, a terrifying beam of light shot out from his eyes as a terrifying killing intent burst out. A majestic sword will rose and bloomed from the Xiantian Immortal Lord. It was as though a peerless divine sword had appeared in the world. That majestic pressure pressed down on the 4 maidservants. Rumble. The expressions of the 4 maidservants changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. They felt as if there was an immemorial divine mountain pressing down on them. Its power was terrifying to the extreme, making it difficult for them to resist. At the same time, a peerless sword intent locked onto the 4 of them. It was as if the slightest movement from them would cause them to be killed immediately. These 4 maids were all experts in the Immortal King realm. Usually, they were taught by Madame Fu Yao personally, so their strength could be considered to be extremely powerful. But now, they actually seemed to be unable to withstand the sword intent of the profound Heaven Immortal Lord, causing them to be extremely shocked. For you. One of the maidservants snorted coldly. The profound Heaven Immortal Lord did not answer, but a terrifying power rose from his body. At the same time, the profound heaven sword in his hand trembled slightly as if an extreme emperor's aura was about to burst out. Ling Xiao was shocked. If the profound Heaven Immortal Lord really killed the 4 maidservants of Madame Fu Yao, then they would be in big trouble. Ling Xiao quickly stood in front of the profound Heaven Immortal Lord. Miss Xiantian, don't be rash. They mean no harm. Facing the rising sword intent of the profound Heaven Immortal Lord, Ling Xiao was shocked. The peerless sword intent was vast and incomparably pure. It made the profound Heaven Immortal Lord seem to have become a peerless sword immortal, born for the sword and wielding the origin of sword Dao. Ling Xiao actually felt an aura similar to Duguqiubai's. This was the pure sword intent that could only be possessed by dedicating oneself to the origin of sword Dao. After feeling Ling Xiao's aura, the light in the profound Heaven Immortal Lord's eyes slowly receded. The sword intent on her body also gradually disappeared. She quickly calmed down and returned to her empty expression. Ling Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. The 4 maidservants of Madame Fu Yao also heaved a sigh of relief. They secretly wiped the sweat on their foreheads and quickly put away their long swords. It was too terrifying. The terrifying sword intent made them feel an irresistible despair, as if they were about to be drowned by the invincible sword intent. Let them come in together. At this moment, Madame Fu Yao's voice came from the Raindrop Pavilion. It was indifferent and ethereal. Only then did the 4 maidservants feel as if they had been pardoned. They stepped aside and allowed Ling Xiao and the profound Heaven Immortal Lord to enter the Raindrop Pavilion. Finally, a storm has been averted. Ling Xiao thought to himself. The Raindrop Pavilion was incomparably exquisite. It was made up of several bamboo buildings. There was a purple bamboo forest in the surroundings that emitted a resplendent immortal light. Auspicious vapors filled the air and misty mist lingered. After entering the Raindrop Pavilion, Ling Xiao saw a peerless figure standing in the courtyard. Madame Fu Yao. Lei Ling, you still dare to come and see me? Madame Fu Yao turned around and looked at Ling Xiao with a faint smile. Her voice was crisp and pleasant, like the ringing of a bell. At the same time, it contained endless temptation that made one unable to help but sink into it. She exuded a mature aura from head to toe. Her figure was hot, and her skin was as white as jade. Especially her beautiful and charming face, her big, watery eyes seemed to be able to steal one's soul. Even though Ling Xiao had seen Madame Fu Yao's face in Lei Ling's memories, he could not help but be amazed when he saw her in person. She was indeed a stunner. Lei Ling dares not to disobey Madame's summons. Ling Xiao suppressed the distracting thoughts in his heart and smiled faintly. If you dare to come and see me, you shouldn't have brought anyone. Moreover, it's such a beautiful woman. Who is she? Madame Fu Yao's gaze fell on the profound heaven immortal lord with a hint of scrutiny. Her soul was actually so weak, but her cultivation was actually so strong? And this sword is the profound heaven sword? Madame Fu Yao's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. Only now did she realize that the profound heaven immortal lord's body was abnormal. She's the reincarnation of the profound heaven immortal lord? Where did you find her? Madame Fu Yao looked at Ling Xiao and asked. I got her out of the divine jade immortal fetus. Ling Xiao told her everything that had happened. I see. But why did she follow you? Did you do something to her? Madame Fu Yao's eyes wandered as she looked at Ling Xiao suspiciously. Peek. Chapter 29:39. Madam, I didn't do anything to her. As for why she wants to follow me, I don't know either. Ling Xiao laughed bitterly. All right, let's put the matter of the profound heaven immortal lord aside for now. Let's talk about the matter between us. Madame Fu Yao strode over and stood in front of Ling Xiao. Immediately, a strange fragrance assailed his nostrils. Madame Fu Yao stared at Ling Xiao with her bewitching eyes, causing him to involuntarily take a few steps back and admit defeat. Madam, I know I've let you down, but my sincerity towards you can be seen by the heavens. If you want to kill me, I will have no complaints. Ling Xiao laughed bitterly in his heart, knowing that it was finally here. However, he could only brace himself and display Lei Ling's acting skills, looking at Madame Fu Yao with deep affection. Oh, then tell me how you've let me down? Madame Fu Yao smiled slightly, her eyes moving as if she was not angry at all. Madam, I shouldn't have given in to the temptation of Saintess Yunxi and betrayed you to be with her. Ling Zhao's face revealed a sorrowful expression. And? Madame Fu Yao smiled. Ling Zhao's scalp went numb, but he could only brace himself and say, I shouldn't have escaped from the immortal realm after you found out. I dared to do it, but I didn't dare to admit it. I've let you down. And? Ling Xiao was slightly taken aback. However, in that split second, a thought flashed through his mind. Then, he looked at Madame Fu Yao with a fiery gaze. Madam, my biggest mistake was to fall in love with you. The deeper I love you, the deeper the pain in my heart. That kind of pain makes me wish I was dead. I only ask that you give me a quick death, and let me die in your hands. That way, even if I die, it will be worth it. Ling Xiao resisted the urge to vomit, and said these words with deep affection. That's right, these were Lei Ling's original words. Ling Xiao laughed bitterly in his heart. He had already used all his strength, and this was more tiring than a great battle. If he still couldn't find a way to survive, then he could only run. Lei Ling, are you really stupid or just pretending to be stupid? Actually, the mistakes you mentioned just now are not mistakes to me. Instead, you've made a great contribution to me. Do you know? Madame Fu Yao sighed softly. She extended a slender hand and brushed Ling Zhao's cheek. What? Ling Xiao was dumbfounded. You may not know, but that little bitch Yunxi used her identity as the saintess to collude with the elders, protectors, and disciples in the divine sect. She wanted to become the master of our divine sect. Originally, even I couldn't do anything to her, but I didn't expect the matter between you and her to be exposed at this time. In my sect, if the saintess wants to inherit the position of the sect leader, she has to remain single for the rest of her life. But she has already broken the precepts, so she will never be able to become the leader, nor can she threaten my position. So you have done me a great service? Do you know? Madame Fuyao said lovingly. Ling Xiao suppressed the disgust in his heart and shuddered. However, he still pretended to be pleasantly surprised and said, "So, did I help Madame?" "That's right, you did help me." Madame Fuyao nodded and said, "But your biggest mistake was to escape from the immortal realm and betray me. Do you know how much my heart hurts? Lei Ling, I lost my appetite for you and suffered the pain of lovesickness for you, but you treat me like this. You really have no conscience." Madame Fuyao stared at Ling Xiao with an incomparably bitter gaze, filled with deep affection. At this moment, Madame Fuyao seemed to have truly shed her disguise and revealed the attitude of a little girl in front of Ling Xiao. "What? You can do that?" Ling Xiao was a little dumbfounded. It was as if 10,000 grassland divine beasts were galloping through his heart. He had originally planned for Madame Fuyao to kill him, but he did not expect Madame Fuyao to reveal such an attitude. "So, you have to make it up to me. Otherwise, I won't let you off." Madame Fuyao approached Ling Xiao, her red lips parted slightly as she spoke with a smile. "How do I make it up to you?" Ling Xiao turned his head with difficulty and said dryly, "You have already hooked up with that little bitch Yunxi, so your next task is to make her completely fall in love with you, love you to death, then mercilessly abandon her, attack her, and tell her that the person you truly love is me, not her." Madame Fuyao smiled faintly. "What? Do you need to be so ruthless?" Ling Xiao said with a bitter smile. In her heart, she increasingly felt that the people of the old god cult were all abnormal. There was something wrong with their brains. Saintess Yunxi was like that, young Master Heiyun was like that, and so was Madame Fuyao. "Yes, I need to be so ruthless. That little bitch, although I won't kill her, I will let her know what it means to live a life worse than death. Do you agree?" Madame Fuyao said with a cold smile. "All right, I agree," Ling Xiao said without hesitation. He would rather die than himself. In any case, he had to get through this hurdle first. "You really are my good Lei Ling. Since that's the case, I'll forgive you for leaving without saying goodbye this time," Madame Fuyao said with a smile. Then, a pair of slender jade-like hands touched Ling Xiao's cheeks and gently moved forward. Her red lips were directly pressed on Ling Xiao's lips, leaving behind a trace of sweetness. Boom! Ling Xiao's head felt like it had exploded. "I was kissed by force?" Ling Xiao's heart trembled violently, and a feeling of incomparable shame grew in his heart. He instantly wanted to push Madame Fuyao away. Clang! At that moment, a sharp sword chi bloomed behind Ling Xiao. In an instant, it slashed down towards Madame Fuyao. The profound heaven immortal lord behind Ling Xiao had made his move. The profound heaven sword was incomparably sharp and contained a powerful emperor's aura, as if it could cut through everything. Madame Fuyao's expression changed involuntarily, and her figure moved like a ghost, instantly shifting the void and dodging the sword. The profound heaven immortal lord pointed his sword at Madame Fuyao from afar with a dangerous light in his eyes. "My good Lei Ling, this profound heaven immortal lord is so protective of you. Although her soul is weak, it seems like she's jealous." Madame Fuyao was not angry and smiled faintly. "Madam, I'm sorry. I can't control Miss Xian Tian, and I don't know why she attacked you with her sword," Ling Xiao said with a bitter smile. However, he heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the profound heaven immortal lord had made his move. Otherwise, he did not know what Madame Fuyao would do to him. She did not want to let Jin Se and Shui Wei down. All of this was Lei Ling's fault. When Ling Xiao thought of this, he could not help but gnash his teeth in hatred towards Lei Ling. He could not wait to resurrect Lei Ling and kill this guy with his own hands. Peak. Chapter 2940. With the Xian Tian celestial lord around, Madame Fuyao gave up on teasing Lei Ling. She did not want to be cut by the Xian Tian celestial lord while they were being intimate. That would be dangerous and spoil the fun. "Lei Ling, I've come to Immortal Ancient City for an important matter. I might need your help," Madame Fuyao said seriously. "Madam, what's the matter?" Lei Ling will not shirk his responsibility, Ling Xiao said loyally, looking like a lackey. "You might not know, But the Jie family and Shi family in immortal ancient city belong to the ancient god sect. Jie Shaoxing and Shi Pejuan are the guardians of the ancient god sect. Madame Fuyao said. The Jie family and the Shi family belong to the ancient god sect? Ling Xiao was slightly surprised, but he had already guessed it. Jie Shaoxing was the clan leader of the Jie family, while Shi Pejuan was the clan leader of the Shi family. Both of them were experienced immortal lords. He had not expected them to be the guardians of the ancient god sect. The Jie family was a superpower that was not weaker than the immortal sects. They had a large amount of resources and were extremely powerful. However, they were the assets of the ancient god sect, which showed how powerful the ancient god sect was. Although the Jie family and the Shi family belong to the ancient god sect does not have many restrictions on them. However, as they have more immortal stones and immortal jades and immortal fetuses, they have obtained a large amount of resources. This has allowed the experts in their family to become more powerful. Their powerful strength has bred ambition and made them want to break away from the control of the ancient god sect. The Jie family is still fine. After my warning, I found out that they are still loyal to the ancient god sect. However, the Shi family is different. They are ambitious and have openly colluded with the Alcade Immortal sect. I think they are going to betray the ancient god sect and join the Alcade Immortal sect. Madame Fuyao said with a cold smile. The Shi family wants to betray the ancient god sect? How dare they? This group of ingrates. If not for the ancient god sect, how could they have obtained so many resources? The Shi family did not want to repay the ancient god sect and even tried to rebel. They deserve to die. Ling Xiao said righteously. You are right. Shi family deserves to die. But now is not the time for us to act rashly. The great defensive array of the immortal ancient city is a flawless emperor array. It is extremely terrifying and can even kill celestial lords. The control is in the hands of the Jie family and the Shi family. In the stone-cutting ceremony, the final winner will be able to gain control of the immortal ancient city's great protective array. Madame Fuyao said slowly. Madam, you mean to wait until the Jie clan wins the extermination of Shi Dian, defeats the Shi clan, and gains control of the great city barrier array before attacking the Shi clan? Ling Xiao asked thoughtfully. That's right. However, the Shi family probably wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Otherwise, they wouldn't have invited people from the Alcade Immortal sect. They were probably planning to make trouble after the stone opening ceremony. So now, let's see who will be the final winner in the stone-cutting ceremony. Madame Fuyao said slowly. What does Madame want me to do? Ling Xiao asked curiously. I want you to join Xie Wushuang in the stone opening ceremony and seize control of the great defensive formation. Madame Fuyao said directly. Participate in the stone-cutting ceremony? Madame thinks too highly of me. I don't even know what the stone-cutting ceremony is about. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled bitterly. Don't belittle yourself. I've seen your performance in the heaven courtyard. Your stone-cutting skills are probably not weaker than Xie Wushuang's. The stone-cutting ceremony, as the name suggests, in addition to stone-cutting, there is also a duel between immortal masters. With your strength, the opponent is likely to be Shi Wuji and Ren Xiaoyao. If you win this duel, the Jie clan will be able to win. Madame Fuyao smiled slightly. Okay, since Madame has ordered, I will naturally work hard to win that duel. Ling Xiao nodded and said. He couldn't refuse. Not only was Lei Ling's cultivation speed extremely fast, but his combat strength was also extremely strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made a name for himself in the immortal world and even made countless women fall in love with him and willingly give themselves to him. Madame Fuyao knew that Lei Ling's combat strength was very strong, so she let him represent the Jie clan's foreign aid. Very well, then you should prepare well. If you really help me win this duel and eradicate the traitor Shi clan, there will be a reward. Madame Fuyao giggled. Her red lips parted slightly, and her small tongue licked her lips gently, emitting endless temptation. Then, she smiled sweetly at Ling Xiao and turned to enter the raindrop pavilion. I don't want any reward. Ling Xiao's body quivered, and he quickly suppressed the charm in his heart and thought to himself. This Madame Fuyao was really a vixen, frantically probing at the edge of danger. Ling Xiao felt very tired, and he didn't know how Lei Ling dealt with her back then. Ling Xiao and the Xian Tian Immortal Master left the Raindrop Pavilion together. Ling Xiao, are you okay? After seeing Ling Xiao come out, Xie Wushuang couldn't help but sigh in relief. I'm fine. Madame Fuyao has pardoned me, and the old god cult will no longer want me. Thank you, Fairy Wushuang. And Madame Fuyao also said that I will represent the Jie clan's foreign aid to participate in the duel of the stone-cutting ceremony. Ling Xiao smiled slightly. It's good that you are fine, but do you want to participate in the duel of the stone-cutting ceremony? With Madame Fuyao's words, the Jie clan naturally has no objection. For the next period of time, young Master Lei can stay in the Jie clan, and the stone-cutting ceremony is not far away. Xie Wushuang said with some surprise. All right, thank you for your trouble. Ling Xiao nodded and said. Xie Wushuang arranged for Ling Xiao to stay in the Windsong Pavilion. The Windsong Pavilion was not far from the Raindrop Pavilion, and it was also an independent courtyard on the hillside, with its back facing the waterfall, and looking at the sea of clouds. It was a magnificent sight. Ling Xiao temporarily stayed in the Windsong Pavilion. Ling Xiao threw the baby swan and I to the sky-devouring rat to take care of. The baby swan and I had just been born, and it needed to swallow many heavenly treasures. The sky-devouring rat was very experienced in taking care of this kind of beast, and Ling Xiao was relieved to leave the baby swan and I in his hands. Among the 6 treasures, the immortal weapon long spear and the sky-burning immortal pill were placed aside. Ling Xiao played with the 5 elements immortal metal for a while, and felt the perfect balance of the 5 elements immortal metal. Ling Xiao kept it. These extreme Dao metals were incomparably precious, and Ling Xiao had a plan in mind, an incomparably crazy plan that required a large amount of extreme Dao metals. With this piece of 5 elements immortal metal, he was much more confident. Finally, Ling Xiao's gaze fell on the Imperial Jade Inheritance. The Imperial Jade Inheritance was an inheritance treasure left behind by an expert in the immortal world during the antiquity times. It contained the expert's inheritance and was incomparably precious. It could be said that it was extremely rare to see such a well-preserved Imperial Jade Inheritance in Ling Xiao's hands. Ling Xiao was also very curious about which expert's inheritance was in this Imperial Jade Inheritance. Buzz. Ling Xiao placed the Imperial Jade Inheritance close to his glabella, and at the same time, activated the Celestial Secret skill. His whole body was radiant with immortal light, and he began to accept the powerful inheritance in the Imperial Jade Inheritance. Chapter 2941. Rumble. In Ling Xiao's Sea of Consciousness, a dazzling immortal light shone as brilliantly as the sun. An ancient and mysterious aura flowed within the Imperial Jade Inheritance. Squall. It was an extremely pure immortal Dao aura that also contained a vast emperor's aura. Is this the inheritance of an immortal emperor? Ling Xiao was slightly shaken. As the pure immortal Dao aura merged with Ling Xiao's Sea of Consciousness, a vast torrent of memories blossomed from the Imperial Jade Inheritance. It was mysterious and unfathomable, changing without a trace. A figure with an extremely fierce aura appeared in front of Ling Xiao. It looked like an old man or a young man, but he was shrouded in a monstrous murderous aura. His blood-red eyes were bloodthirsty and murderous. Ling Xiao couldn't help but be moved. He had never seen someone with such a strong murderous aura. It was as if he was born to kill. I am the Great Slaughter Immortal Lord. I obtained the Great Slaughter Immortal Art and defeated the geniuses of the immortal world. I fought hundreds of millions of monsters alone and was invincible. I attained Tao in 100 years, became a king in 1,000 years, and became a monarch in 10,000 years. I set foot on the Eternal Emperor's road and conquered the heavens. I fought 36,581 battles in my life. I won all of them and beheaded all of them. There has never been a single survivor under my command. I attained Tao through killing and walked on the path of slaughter. I peered into the origin and comprehended yin and yang. However, the Emperor's road was severed and there was no hope of attaining Tao. The heavens were jealous of the heroes. What could they do? A majestic voice exploded in Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness like thunder from the 9 heavens. It was mysterious, dignified, ancient, and enormous. This was the inheritance left behind by an expert called the Great Slaughter Immortal Lord. Although his memories weren't complete and were mostly related to cultivation techniques, Ling Xiao still vaguely knew his life story. In short, it was the story of an ordinary young man from the immortal world who obtained the Great Slaughter Immortal Art and dominated the immortal world. In the end, the Great Slaughter Immortal Lord set foot on the Eternal Emperor's road, but he died there because it was severed. The Great Slaughter Immortal Art? What a familiar name. This was actually a supreme monarch technique that contained the complete slaughter origin. This Great Slaughter Immortal Lord is truly impressive. Although he didn't obtain the immortal emperor's inheritance, Ling Xiao wasn't disappointed. He discovered that the Great Culling Immortal Art was indeed extremely powerful. To live by killing, to prove one's Tao through killing, to slaughter all living beings, to sweep through invincibility, this was the grand art of immortal slaying. Ling Xiao saw that even though the Grand Slaughter Immortal Lord had obtained many cultivation methods and immortal arts, he had never cultivated them. He had cultivated the Grand Slaughter Immortal Art to the extreme and evolved it into the slaughter essence. Eventually, he had relied on it to dominate the world. However, Ling Xiao seemed to have heard of the Great Culling Immortal Art from somewhere. Rumble. Ling Xiao's mind spun, but in his sea of consciousness, the Great Immortal Slaying Art turned into a black mist that surged with the origin of slaughter. Eventually, the black mist condensed into an ancient slaughter character. The word slaughter seemed to represent the ultimate power of slaughter in the world. In the end, it turned into a black streak of light and fused with Ling Xiao's soul. The Great Immortal Slaying Art. In an instant, Ling Xiao felt as if he had been slaughtering in the Azura hell for millions of years. The bloody massacre, the wanton slaughter, the destruction of all living beings, the shattering of everything. Slaughter seemed to have become an instinct, deeply imprinted in his soul. As for the Great Immortal Slaying Art, it was as if he had cultivated it for countless years and had reached perfection. With a single thought, a terrifying black mist surged around Ling Xiao. His killing intent soared, and his entire aura became dark and cold. This aura could even affect one's mind and cause great pressure and deterrence to the enemy. Ling Xiao could even feel that with this Great Immortal Slaying Art, his battle strength had soared by 30%. No wonder the Imperial Jade Palace inheritance is so precious. I can actually obtain the complete inheritance and comprehension of an expert through it. Truly heaven-defying. Ling Xiao marveled and finally understood why the Imperial Jade Palace inheritance was so precious in the immortal world. This Imperial Jade Palace inheritance was not made from ordinary treasures of heaven and earth. It was the crystallization of an expert's soul power. Obtaining the Imperial Jade Palace inheritance was no different from being enlightened. This Great Immortal Slaying Art was a pure killing art. Its power was terrifying and unparalleled. It was extremely precious to Ling Xiao. Although this Great Immortal Slaying Art is a supreme emperor art, I vaguely feel that it's not complete. It seems to be incomplete. It can't be called incomplete. Perhaps it's some other kind of slaughter origin. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly had a thought. However, he had no clue at the moment. The Great Immortal Slaying Art was indeed very powerful. It was even stronger than many of the emperor arts that Ling Xiao cultivated. A month later, Ling Xiao came out of seclusion. It was a pleasant surprise that he had obtained the Great Immortal Slaying Art's inheritance. However, Ling Xiao did not expect that it would take him so long to refine the Imperial Jade Palace inheritance and inherit the Great Immortal Slaying Art. While Ling Xiao was refining the Imperial Jade Palace inheritance, the profound Heaven Immortal Lord stood beside him like a loyal guard. Master, you're finally out of seclusion. The stone-cracking ceremony is about to begin. The heaven-devouring rat was standing guard outside. When he saw Ling Xiao come out of seclusion, he was pleasantly surprised. Stone-cracking ceremony? Didn't you say it would take 3 months? Is it brought forward? Ling Xiao was slightly stunned. That's right. The Xie family and the Shi family have agreed. The stone-cracking ceremony will be brought forward tomorrow. Fairy Wushuang asked me to stay here and wait for you to come out of seclusion. I'll bring you to see her. The heaven-devouring rat explained. All right. Ling Xiao nodded and said. Under the lead of the heaven-devouring rat, Ling Xiao and the profound heaven-immortal lord left the Windsong Pavilion. They passed through many palaces and pavilions and even passed a few mountain peaks. Finally, they saw Xie Wushuang in a palace built on the peak of a mountain. In the palace, besides Xie Wushuang, there was also a middle-aged man in a long robe. He looked elegant and extraordinary. His eyes were wise and deep as if they could see through people's hearts. The Xie family patriarch, Xie Miesheng. Lei Ling, you're out of seclusion? After seeing Ling Xiao, Xie Wushuang's originally anxious face revealed a trace of joy. Greetings, Fairy Wushuang and Patriarch Xie. Ling Xiao smiled at Xie Wushuang and Xie Miesheng. You're welcome. You must be the Lei Ling that Madam mentioned. You're indeed a young supreme talent. I'm afraid we'll have to trouble you for this stone-cracking ceremony. Xie Miesheng smiled. His body was surrounded by a faint layer of clear light. Although Ling Xiao couldn't tell what level of monarch immortal he was at, he knew that he was a genuine monarch immortal expert. You're too kind, Patriarch Xie. Ling Xiao laughed. Chapter 2942. Lei Ling, the ceremony will begin tomorrow. The ceremony will be hosted by Madame Fu Yao and the Dubhe Immortal Lord. It seems like the Shi family is determined to rely on the Alcade Immortal sect. Xie Wushuang said slowly. Sui Mingxiao. Calm. Who is the Dubhe Immortal Lord? Ling Xiao asked curiously. The Dubhe Immortal Lord is the Grand Elder of the Alcade Immortal sect. There are 7 Immortal Lords in the Alcade Immortal sect, known as the Alcade 7. They are named after the Big Dipper, Dubhe, Merak, Fekta, Migrez, Alioth, Mizar and Alcade. The Alcade Immortal Lord is the strongest and is the leader of the Alcade Immortal sect. The Dubhe Immortal Lord is second only to the Alcade Immortal Lord. Xie Wushuang explained. I see. How will the stone-cutting ceremony be held tomorrow? Ling Xiao asked. Although he had been listening to people talking about the ceremony, he did not know what the ceremony was about. The ceremony actually comes from the Immortal Ancient City's City Defense Array, the Immortal Coalescence Emperor Array. Below the Immortal Ancient City is the place where Divine Dao Qi and Immortal Dao Qi converge. An ancient great emperor used this as a foundation to set up the Immortal Coalescence Emperor Array. Within the Immortal Coalescence Emperor Array, immortal stones and immortal jade fetuses are produced every 10,000 years. Most of them are from the void treasures captured by the Emperor Array and turned into chaos strange objects. The Array Eye of the Immortal Coalescence Emperor Array is among these treasures. The ceremony is to find the Array Eye of the Immortal Coalescence Emperor Array from these treasures. Once the Array Eye is found, one can control the Immortal Coalescence Emperor Array and win the ceremony. However, the Jie family and the Shi family had a discussion and divided the contest into 3 rounds. The first round was a battle of wits. The 2 families would send out their own people to identify the origin of the immortal stone and the immortal jade fetus, as well as the treasures within them. Furthermore, they had to open the stones as fast as possible. The second round was a battle of wits. The Xie family and the Shi family would each send out an expert to compete and defeat the opponent. Actually, the first and second round was just for fun. The key was the third round. The third round was called the Array Battle. Enter the core region of the Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation, choose the Immortal Stone or Immortal Jade Immortal Fetus, and find the Array Eye. Therefore, in the third round, we must do whatever it takes. Otherwise, once the Shi family controls the Array core, the consequences will be unimaginable. Xie Wushuang said slowly and explained the stone-cutting ceremony. Literary battle, military battle, and formation battle? Ling Xiao nodded and said. With Xie Wushuang's explanation he understood. Lei Ling, I hope that you can participate in tomorrow's martial arts battle and accompany me in the third battle. Xie Wushuang said seriously. Martial arts battle? Do you trust me that much? Although I'm only an immortal venerable, do you really think I can win the martial battle? Ling Xiao said with a smile. If Madame Fuyao says you can win, then you can win. Xie Wushuang nodded. All right. Since you trust me, then there's no problem. But what about Wen Zhan? Wen Zhan, are you planning to give up? Ling Xiao nodded and said. The Jie family probably won't be able to win the civil war. Therefore, we should focus on the second and third round. Xie Wushuang said. Why is that? Ling Xiao was puzzled. The civil war has always been the weakness of the Jie family. When the time comes, we will randomly choose 10 fairy stones and each family will send 10 stone-cutting masters. Although I don't want to admit it, the Jie family's stone-cutting masters are indeed inferior to the Shi family. Xie Wushuang said with a wry smile. Ling Xiao nodded. There was no other way. The Jie family's strength was obviously weaker than the Shi family's. They could only give up on the stone-cutting skill. All right. Since you trust me so much, I can only do my best. Ling Xiao said with a nod. His eyes revealed a trace of sharpness. Since he had obtained the inheritance of the great slaughter of immortal skill, he might be able to see the true power of the great slaughter of immortal skill in tomorrow's martial arts battle. The main reason why Ling Xiao was willing to help the Jie family was because of Madame Fuyao. Ling Xiao previously thought that Lei Ling had offended Madame Fuyao, so he got rid of Yunshi Saintus and avoided the territory of Madame Fuyao and the ancient god cult to come to the immortal ancient city. But now, it seemed that Madame Fuyao did not mind Lei Ling hooking up with Yunshi Saintus. Instead, she was happy to see it and even gave Ling Xiao a task. This way, Ling Xiao would have a chance to infiltrate the ancient god cult. Ling Xiao realized that many of the secrets of the immortal world were only known to the ancient god cult or the 9 major immortal sects. Ordinary people did not know at all. He had a heavy responsibility this time. Besides finding out the truth of the immortal world, he also had to find out about the Eternal Emperor Road. Just like the Great Slaughter Immortal Lord. Although Ling Xiao knew that he had gone to the Eternal Emperor Road, he did not know the specific details and process. The ancient god cult claimed to be able to compete with the 9 major immortal sects. Ling Xiao would definitely know more inside information. Fairy Wushuang, have you heard of the great slaughter of immortals skill? Ling Xiao suddenly thought of something and asked Jie Wushuang. Great slaughter of immortals skill? I'm not sure. Xie Wushuang shook her head. Great slaughter of immortals skill? Why would Lei Ling suddenly ask about the great slaughter of immortals skill? This is the supreme emperor skill lost by the heavenly immortal sect. Xie Mieshing, who was sitting at the head of the table, suddenly said. The supreme emperor skill lost by the heavenly immortal sect? Ling Xiao was slightly taken aback. That's right. However, this was only what the heavenly immortal sect claimed. In fact, the great slaughter of immortals skill had nothing to do with them. In ancient times, there was a heavenly immortal emperor who dominated an era. He was dazzling and invincible. He had 4 apex emperor weapons, namely the immortal slaying sword, the immortal slaughtering sword, the immortal trapping sword, and the immortal extinguishing sword. At the same time, he also created 4 supreme emperor skills, namely the great immortal slaying art, the great immortal slaughtering art, the great immortal trapping art, and the great immortal extinguishing art. The heavenly immortal sect obtained the immortal slaying sword and the immortal trapping sword. At the same time, they also obtained the great immortal slaying art and the great immortal trapping art. Therefore, they claimed to be the legacy of the heavenly immortal emperor. Over the years, they have been searching for the other 2 immortal swords and 2 emperor skills. Xie Mieshing explained. The 4 immortal swords and immortal skills? Ling Xiao was slightly taken aback. The doubts in his heart were finally resolved. He also finally understood why he felt that the great slaughter of immortal skill was incomplete. It turned out that there were 4 complete immortal skills. Legend has it that the 4 immortal swords and immortal skills complement each other. Once they are complete, one can obtain the complete legacy of the heavenly immortal emperor. Once the 4 immortal swords are used, they can even slaughter great emperors. Xie Mieshing exclaimed in amazement. Who is this heavenly immortal emperor? How could he be so heaven-defying? Ling Xiao exclaimed in his heart. The 4 immortal swords could slaughter great emperors. Such means reminded him of the heavenly emperors of the human race. Although many people say that the heavenly immortal emperor is from the immortal race, he should be from the immortal race. Jie Mieshing said as he looked at Ling Xiao meaningfully. Immortal race? Didn't the immortal race exterminate the immortal race long ago? Ling Xiao was slightly taken aback. That's right. The immortal race is almost extinct. However, it doesn't mean that the immortal race doesn't exist in this world. Otherwise, where did the old god cult and those evil sects come from? They all obtained the legacy of the immortal race and regarded the immortal race as the orthodox sect. That's why the 9 immortal sects didn't tolerate them and turned them into evil sects. Xie Mieshing explained softly. I see. Ling Xiao understood in his heart. With Xie Mieshing's explanation, Ling Xiao had a clearer understanding of the feud between the immortal race and the immortal race. However, the 9 immortal sects should be extremely powerful. They should be far more powerful than the evil sects like the old god cult. Why would they tolerate the existence of the old god cult? Could it be that there was something more to this? Ling Xiao also thought of the immortal race mark in his sea of consciousness. Could the immortal race mark be related to the old god cult? There were many mysteries that Ling Xiao couldn't find the answers to. Chapter 2943. There was a huge white jade square in the middle of the Xie and Shi families' mansions. Usually, it was heavily guarded by the experts of the 2 families. This was the place where the stone-cutting ceremony was held. Although there were many people in the immortal ancient city who were interested in the stone-cutting ceremony, not everyone could participate in it. Only those who had been invited by the Xie and Shi families were qualified to enter. Chapter 2922 of the Great Ancient Emperor, Stone Dissecting Ceremony. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 2944. Everyone had a strange look on their faces. Those who were able to attend the stone-cutting ceremony were all influential figures in the immortal realm. They more or less knew about the relationship between the Jie family and the Shi family. Moreover, the Shi family did not hide anything when they wanted to join the Alcade Immortal Sect. Not only had Shi Qingyi become a disciple of the Alcade Immortal Sect, but the saint of the Alcade Immortal Sect, Ren Xiaoyao, had also come. Even the second-ranked Dubhe Immortal Lord had come to the immortal ancient city. It was unusual for Madame Fuyao and Dubhe Immortal Lord to be the judges of this ceremony. Although the Xie family and the Shi family still maintained a friendly relationship on the surface and did not fall out with each other, it was probably because of this stone-cutting ceremony. He was afraid that after the stone-cutting ceremony, there would be a big storm coming. Madam, will you announce it? Dubhe Immortal Lord glanced at Madame Fuyao and smiled faintly. All right. Madame Fuyao did not decline and stood up in the void. Everyone's eyes fell on Madame Fuyao. There was a moment of absent-mindedness in their eyes, but they were full of passion. She was a woman who was perfect to the extreme. It was as if all the most beautiful words could be used to describe Madame Fuyao. Although Jie Wushuang and Shi Qingyi were equally beautiful, they were a little more inexperienced. They were not like Madame Fuyao, who was mature and charming. Every frown and smile was filled with a myriad of emotions that dazzled people. At this moment, Madame Fuyao was the center of attention. I announce that the stone-cutting ceremony has officially begun. With Madame Fuyao's announcement, the stone-cutting ceremony began. The Jie and Shi families had held countless stone-cutting ceremonies and were very familiar with the process. Therefore, there was no need for any judges. Madame Fuyao and Dubhe Immortal Lord looked more like witnesses. Jie Mieshing and Shi Pejuan stepped on the void. Their gazes collided, and sparks seemed to fly in all directions. Buzz. An ancient seal appeared in each of their palms. The difference was that the ancient seal in Jie Mieshing's hand was black, simple and mysterious, and filled with a vast divine Tao aura. The ancient seal in Sherpajuan's hand was white, exquisite, and perfect. It bloomed with bright immortal light and surged with vast immortal Tao power. The two ancient seals instantly soared into the sky, radiating dazzling rays of light in the void. The two ancient seals attracted and repelled each other, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. In an instant, they turned into two pillars of light that shot into the depths of the earth. Bolts of lightning intertwined in the surroundings as blazing runes rose into the air. At the same time, an extremely terrifying emperor's aura spread out, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. Dazzling light shone in front of everyone's eyes, and auspicious qi coiled around it. It was as if a strange formation space had faintly appeared. Rays of brilliant light were fired from the formation and landed on the white jade square. They eventually turned into immortal rocks. Those celestial stones flowed with mysterious light. They were of different shapes and were dazzling. There were even celestial jades and immortal fetuses that contained boundless life energy. There were over 1,000 immortal stones. At this moment, Madame Fuyao and Dubhe Immortal Lord's eyes flashed as they struck at the same time. Madame Fuyao pointed in the air and 10 pieces of immortal stones flew out towards the 10 stonecutters from the Shi family. Dubhe Immortal Lord stretched out his hand and similarly, 10 pieces of immortal stones flew out towards the 10 stonecutters from the Jie family. The first round, the literary battle begins. With Madame Fuyao's announcement, the literary battle began. In the first round, the Jie family and the Shi family each sent out 10 stonecutters to identify the origin and type of the immortal stones and then cut them as fast as possible. This was a contest of stonecutters, and it also represented the foundation and power of the Jie family and the Shi family. Neither Jie Wushuang nor the 3 brothers from the Shi family made a move. This round was a contest between the stonecutters trained by the 2 families. Suddenly, the eyes of the stonecutters from the Jie family and the Shi family shone brightly. They each held an immortal stone and quickly formed seals with dazzling runes. They tested the immortal stones while looking for the internal nodes of the immortal stones and then began to cut them. Rumble! On the white jade square, divine light shone brightly, and auspicious vapors filled the air. The contest between the stonecutters from the Jie family and the Shi family instantly attracted everyone's attention and brought the stonecutters' ceremony to a climax. Fairy Wushuang, is the Jie family really unable to win the first round? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he asked faintly. He could see that until now, the stonecutters from the Jie family and the Shi family were still neck and neck. After quickly identifying the immortal stones, they entered the most exciting part of the stonecutters. They can't win. The Shi family has won 3 consecutive stonecutter ceremonies and has been the owner of the immortal ancient city for 30,000 years. They have obtained a huge amount of resources and their stonecutters have improved by leaps and bounds. Although I don't want to admit it, I have to admit that the Jie family's stonecutters are indeed very different from the Shi family's. Jie Wushuang shook her head and said, "You may see that the 2 sides are neck and neck, but the immortal stones in the Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation are all products of the immortal realm. They have been nurtured in the Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation for 10,000 years and contain majestic divine Tao and immortal Tao aura. It is very difficult to separate the nodes." "I see." Ling Xiao nodded and said. Very quickly he saw the difference. At the beginning, the stonecutters from the Jie family and the Shi family were neck and neck. They had identified the immortal stones almost at the same time and then began to cut the stones. But in the process of cutting the stones, the difference between the 2 families could be seen. On the immortal stones, divine Tao aura and immortal Tao aura were intertwined. There were thousands of such nodes. The Jie family's stonecutters needed a few breaths of time to break a node, but the Shi family's stonecutters were almost twice as fast. Therefore, many people could see that the hands of the Shi family's stonecutters were fluttering like butterflies. Their speed was extremely fast and they were constantly breaking the nodes on the immortal stones. But the Jie family's stonecutters were much slower. The Shi family will definitely win this battle of wits. Shi Tianying sneered. The Jie family is already on the verge of collapse. Such stonecutters are really a disgrace to our family. Shi Qingyi also said coldly. On the Jie family side, although Jie Miexing and Jie Wushuang looked normal, many elders of the Jie family had extremely ugly expressions. This was simply a disgrace to the Jie family. If they were only slightly behind the Shi family, it would be fine. But now, it seemed that they were being crushed by the Shi family. If the first battle of wits was like this, then what about the next two battles? Could it be that the Jie family was going to lose this stone-cuttering ceremony? Top. Chapter 2945. Everyone's expression was also very strange. They looked at the Jie family with strange expressions. This time, the Jie family had really lost face. Without a doubt, the Jie family was bound to lose this time. Kacha. Soon, a crisp sound was heard. The stonecutter of the Shi family had finished their work and opened the treasures in the fairy stones. 10 dazzling light balls floated in the void, looking mysterious. On the other hand, the Jie family had only finished cutting 2 fairy stones. A crushing defeat. It was a complete and utter defeat. The Jie family has lost this battle of wits. Without waiting for the 2 judges to announce the result, Jie Miexing stood up and said flatly, "Thank you, Brother Miexing." Shi Pejuan said with a smile. However, no one stopped the Jie family's stonecutter and allowed them to continue cutting. After about 15 minutes, all the stonecutter had finished cutting the stones. However, the stonecutter of the Xie family had an ugly expression on his face. His face was full of shame. The gap was too big. They stepped back gloomily. Although Jie Miexing and Jie Wushuang did not say much, they were also very upset. The first battle of wits and the second battle of wits did not have much impact. The most important thing is the third battle. Whoever can find the core of the formation will win this stone-opening ceremony. That being said, from the first battle of wits, the gap between the Jie family and the Shi family's stone-cutting technique is too big. If this goes on, it will be almost impossible for them to win the third battle. Let's watch the second battle. I wonder who the Jie family will send for the second battle of wits? Only Jie Wushuang, right? That's right. In this generation, the Jie family only has Jie Wushuang. However, if she participates in the battle of wits, it will be even more difficult to win the battle of wits. Battle of wits? Hee, although they are stone-cutting families, the immortal realm is also a place where the strong are respected. This also represents the foundation of both families. However, I think that if Jie Wushuang does not participate, the Jie family will also lose the battle of wits. Many people who came to participate in the stone opening ceremony were discussing in low voices. Each of them had different expressions. Some were gloating, some were sympathetic, and some were indifferent. However, everyone had seen that the Jie family had lost so miserably in the first round of the literary battle. There was probably no suspense in the stone-cutting ceremony this time. For the second round, the Shi family will be represented by me. Ren Xiaoyao stepped into the void and cupped his hands toward Jie Wushuang and Jie Miexing. His face was filled with an extremely gentle smile. "It's the Xiaoyao saint?" Someone exclaimed in surprise. The unfettered sage son is actually representing the Shi clan. It seems like the Shi clan and the Alcade Immortal sect have a close relationship. Someone guessed. Unfettered saint's son? So handsome. If I can marry Xiaoyao saint's son, even if I have to shorten my lifespan by tens of thousands of years, I am willing. A young girl's eyes lit up as she said shyly, "Little whore, you really dare to think about it? The unfettered saint's son doesn't like you. Only Xie Wushuang is worthy of him." It seems that Xie Wushuang will be representing the Jie family. These are the 2 kings of heaven in the divine realm. If we can fight here, our trip will not be in vain. I'm really looking forward to it. Everyone's eyes were full of expectation. Their eyes fell on Xie Wushuang, looking forward to seeing Xie Wushuang fight. However, Xie Wushuang looked calm and indifferent, as if she had no intention of responding to Ren Xiaoyao. "I'm Lei Ling." I will represent the Jie family in this martial battle. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. At this moment, he did not hide his cultivation. The aura of the celestial prime realm was released, shrouding him in a layer of incomparably mysterious aura. It had to be said that Lei Ling's appearance was no worse than Ling Xiao's. His long purple hair was thick and lustrous, and his body was surrounded by purple thunderbolts. He was tall and handsome, and his appearance was even better than Ren Xiaoyao's. Otherwise, Lei Ling would not have been able to charm so many young women in the immortal realm. Lei Ling. After seeing Ling Xiao, everyone was slightly stunned. They did not expect the Jie family to send Lei Ling to fight. Who was this Lei Ling? Although many people knew Lei Ling and knew that Lei Ling was the person who won the Qianyuan stone shop for Xie Wushuang, there were many big shots present who did not know Lei Ling. After hearing the introduction of the people next to them, everyone knew Lei Ling's identity. Is the Jie family giving up on the martial battle? I'm afraid that's the case. After all, Xie Wushuang can't fight, and the Jie family has to preserve their strength for the upcoming battle. This Lei Ling doesn't look weak. He's actually a celestial prime expert. So what if he's not weak? Can he be compared to the unfettered saint? The unfettered saint is a king of heaven who is famous in the immortal realm. Lei Ling will only be humiliating himself if he fights. That's right. Lei Ling will definitely lose. It's just a question of how many moves he can take. I think he will be defeated by the unfettered saint within 10 moves. 10 moves? You're overestimating him. I bet he will lose in 5 moves. I bet 3 moves. Before the martial battle began, everyone began to talk about it. However, they were generally not optimistic about Ling Xiao and thought that he would definitely lose. Lei Ling. Ren Xiaoyao frowned slightly. He also thought that Xie Wushuang would fight, but he did not expect it to be Lei Ling. He was slightly disappointed. In the entire younger generation of the Jie family, the only one that could catch his eye was Jie Wushuang. Ren Xiaoyao, let's start quickly. I think everyone is looking forward to the third battle. Let's end this quickly. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and looked extremely calm. Ren Xiaoyao was the holy son of the Alcade Immortal Sect. He had the powerful immortal skills of the Alcade Immortal Sect. For Ling Xiao, he was a good opponent. Yes, he was only good. If an immortal master was here, Ling Xiao might be able to take him seriously. However, he was just a celestial prime. Even if he was a king of heaven in the immortal realm, Ling Xiao did not take him seriously. Okay. Ren Xiaoyao nodded and his eyes instantly became extremely sharp. He could hear the carelessness and indifference in Ling Xiao's words, which made him slightly angry. Although he looked gentle on the surface, he was incomparably arrogant and cold in his bones. In the entire younger generation of the immortal ancient city, only Xie Wushuang and Shi Wuji were worthy of his attention. Who was this Lei Ling? How dare he look down on the unfettered saint? Although Ren Xiaoyao was calm on the surface, he had secretly decided to teach Ling Xiao a lesson. Boom! Ling Xiao operated the immortal force around his body, and the blazing lightning bloomed. There seemed to be purple thunderbolts in his palm that began to superimpose. Peek! Chapter 2946. The Ninefold Purple Cloud Art. This was the cultivation method that Lei Ling practiced. It was created by an ancient immortal, and its power was extremely powerful. Ling Xiao used the divine punishment secret skill to control the ninefold purple cloud art and easily cultivated it to the perfection realm. A purple palm print came across the sky, containing the ninefold thunder light. It was ancient and mysterious. In an instant, it soared in the void and suppressed Ren Xiaoyao. The battle between Ling Xiao and Ren Xiaoyao was in the sky above the immortal ancient city. The immortal ancient city was protected by the immortal coalescence emperor formation, so no matter how powerful their attacks were, they could not affect the people watching below. Good. Ren Xiaoyao's eyes lit up. Ling Xiao's palm was powerful, and it contained a trace of the origin power of thunder, which made him look down on Ling Xiao less. Clang. The light in his palm was dazzling, and in an instant, an immortal sword appeared. The sword light was sharp, and at the same time, it was surrounded by bright starlight. Star River shattering. Following Ren Xiaoyao's soft shout, the immortal sword soared into the sky like a dazzling river of stars sweeping towards the sky. It contained a vast and ethereal sword intent of the Milky Way, as if it could shatter everything. This was the Star River shattering immortal skill of the Alcade Immortal Sect. Ren Xiaoyao was an expert in sword principle. As soon as he made a move, the aura around him became extremely sharp, like an unsheathed divine sword, blooming with peerless light. Rumble. The purple palm print collided with the Star River in the sky in an instant. The void shook, the Star River shook, and the sky was dyed purple by the thunder. Everyone saw that in an instant, the dazzling light was dazzling, and the sword chi in the sky swept in all directions, completely annihilating the palm print. Ren Xiaoyao came with the immortal sword, and the sword light illuminated the world. The sword crossed the sky and wanted to cut Ling Xiao under it. Boom! Ling Xiao's expression was calm. Facing Ren Xiaoyao and the sword chi in the sky, he stepped into the void and punched out. Heaven and earth shook violently, and a terrifying divine power erupted from Ling Xiao's body, causing the void in all directions to shake in an instant. Under this punch, the sword light that filled the sky suddenly exploded with a bang. The immortal sword in Ren Xiaoyao's hand trembled violently, and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. Ling Xiao's strength was too terrifying. At that moment, Ren Xiaoyao felt as if he was facing an ancient ferocious beast. It caused his entire body to tremble before he was sent flying. Kill! Ling Xiao roared. His eyes were like lightning, shooting out dazzling beams of light. He charged towards Ren Xiaoyao. Blazing lightning bloomed around him, enveloping him in a layer of purple lightning. At this moment, Ling Xiao seemed to have transformed into the god of thunder, about to send down lightning punishment, destroy everything, and suppress the heavens and earth. 7 constellations Azure Dragon Sword. Ren Xiaoyao's expression was fierce, and his eyes were full of strong fighting intent. He did not expect Ling Xiao to be so strong. Instantly, all the contempt in his heart disappeared, and he began to use his full strength. Although this martial battle was nothing, it was no longer a martial battle between the Xie and Shi families. This was Ren Xiaoyao's battlefield. If he lost this battle, not only would Ren Xiaoyao's reputation be damaged, but the Alcade Immortal Sect would also be humiliated. Therefore, Ren Xiaoyao did not hold back at all. The immortal sword in his hand emitted boundless immortal light, causing the sky to shake violently. 7 dazzling stars appeared in the eastern sky domain. Vast starlight sprinkled down, forming an azure dragon that flew across the sky and suppressed Ling Xiao. 7 constellations White Tiger Sword. 7 constellations Vermilion Bird Sword. 7 constellations Black Tortoise Sword. Ren Xiaoyao slashed down 3 more times in a row. The sword light illuminated the sky in all directions. In the eastern sky domain, the southern sky domain, and the northern sky domain, a white tiger, a vermilion bird, and a black tortoise flew across the sky at the same time. This was a supreme immortal skill of the Alcade Immortal Sect. It contained the power of the 4 poles and 8 wastelands. It could lead to the origin of the true spirit of the 28 constellations and erupt with destructive power. In the face of Ren Xiaoyao's peerless swordsmanship, Ling Xiao's expression was extremely calm. He was barehanded, and his fists were like dragons. Every punch shook the sky, made the void tremble, and erupted with blazing thunderbolts and the ultimate physical strength. Boom! The battle between Ling Xiao and Ren Xiaoyao instantly became extremely fierce. Lei Ling can actually fight with Ren Xiaoyao to such an extent? Who is he? I don't seem to have heard of Lei Ling before. Everyone's eyes were full of disbelief. This battle was beyond their imagination. Originally, they thought that this battle would be a crushing defeat. Ren Xiaoyao would be invincible and defeat Lei Ling. However, they did not expect that Lei Ling's combat strength would be so powerful that he could fight Ren Xiaoyao to a draw. He is really strong. Xie Wushuang's beautiful eyes were shining as she whispered to herself. Lei Ling is definitely not an ordinary person. How can he be so strong? Could it be that Lei Ling is just his alias? Shi Wuji's eyes shone brightly. Lei Ling had unleashed such a powerful combat strength, which made him extremely solemn. Shi Tianying and Shi Qingyi's expressions were naturally very ugly. Especially Shi Tianying, the enmity between him and Ling Xiao was not small. He constantly wanted to kill Ling Xiao, but Ling Xiao's powerful combat strength made him feel a little frightened. As for Madame Fuyao and Dubhe Immortal Lord, both of them looked extremely calm, but in fact, their hearts were far from as calm as they appeared. Lei Ling left the immortal realm once. Not only did his cultivation break through to the immortal venerable realm, but his combat strength also improved by leaps and bounds. It seems that he has obtained a great fortune. This is good too, Madame Fuyao thought to herself. Above the 9 heavens, the battle between Ling Xiao and Ren Xiaoyao became more and more intense. The so-called immortal qi traces its origin back to the power of the great Tao origin. However, the immortal qi of the immortal realm actually contains such a rich immortal substance. As a result, the people of the immortal clan not only have a long lifespan, but also the attack power of the immortal technique is extremely powerful. Ling Xiao thought to himself, and there was a trace of understanding in his eyes. In fact, Ling Xiao deliberately fought with Ren Xiaoyao to such an extent. Otherwise, even if Ren Xiaoyao was the holy son of the Alcade immortal sect, he would not be able to withstand a few moves from Ling Xiao. One must know that Ling Xiao's current combat strength was too terrifying. He could even kill an immortal emperor expert. The reason why he and Ren Xiaoyao were in a stalemate in the battle was not only to preserve his strength and avoid exposing his strength, but also to test the power of the immortal technique. Sure enough, Ling Xiao found many special things. The immortal qi was, in fact, the power of the origin. However, it was fused with many immortal substances. Not only could the immortal qi delay aging, but it could also explode with powerful combat strength. It could be said that with the immortal qi alone, the combat strength of an immortal clan expert could crush experts of the same realm from other clans. Not to mention, Ling Xiao found that the bloodlines of many immortals were also extremely shocking. The immortal clan experts with immortal roots were even more powerful to an abnormal extent. For example, although Ren Xiaoyao was not old and had only broken through to the immortal venerable realm for a short period of time, Ling Xiao felt that those immortal venerables of the human clan who had broken through for hundreds of thousands of years might not be a match for Ren Xiaoyao. The immortal clan was indeed a powerful opponent. Chapter 2947. Ling Xiao and Ren Xiaoyao had already fought for thousands of rounds. Sui Meng Xiao Shua WWH Suimeng come in the eyes of the crowd. Ling Xiao and Ren Xiaoyao had used all their divine skills and erupted with extremely powerful combat strength. In the end, they were evenly matched. Now, the crowd was no longer sure who would win this battle. They were even looking forward to it. Could Lei Ling create a miracle and defeat the Holy Sun? But for Ling Xiao, this battle was not a challenge. He just promised to understand Wushuang and verify some of his speculations. And now, this battle could finally end. Ren Xiaoyao, let's decide the outcome with one move. Ling Xiao said lightly as he sent Ren Xiaoyao flying with a punch. Okay, as you wish. Ren Xiaoyao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said coldly with a sharp look in his eyes. He was still injured. Although Ling Xiao only used the 9 levels of the Purple Cloud skill to fight, his attainments in the Thunder Principle origin were extremely high, and his physical body was unparalleled. Although he fought Ren Xiaoyao's immortal sword with his fists, after thousands of collisions, Ren Xiaoyao still suffered serious injuries. He already knew how powerful Ling Xiao was, so he planned to deal with Ling Xiao with the most powerful immortal skill. Boom! Ren Xiaoyao's body bloomed with an unparalleled light, and an ancient and mysterious aura flowed around him. 9 heavens stars fall. As Ren Xiaoyao shouted softly, in an instant, the hundreds of millions of acupoints all over his body gushed out rays of light like stars and began to light up. The firmament above the 9th heaven trembled violently. In an instant, the brilliance of the sun seemed to be covered, and hundreds of millions of stars appeared above the firmament. In an instant, the Milky Way shook, and the stars in the sky seemed to resonate with the acupoints all over Ren Xiaoyao's body. The unparalleled power of the stars sprinkled down, and in an instant, it turned into supreme stars and pressed down across the sky. Is this the 9 heavens stars fall immortal skill? Someone exclaimed, recognizing the celestial art that Ren Xiaoyao had used. The 9 heavenly stars fall immortal art was the supreme emperor art of the Alcade immortal sect. It was extremely famous in the immortal world. It could use the supreme star source to condense billions of supreme stars. At the same time, it contained the power of space and could destroy everything. Its power was unparalleled. Even if Lei Ling is defeated, he should be proud that he was able to force the unfettered Holy Sun to use the 9 heaven starfall celestial technique. That's right. If the unfettered Saint's Sun uses the 9 heaven starfall immortal technique, he might even be able to fight against an immortal monarch. Lei Ling is going to lose for sure. Everyone exclaimed in amazement. Once the 9 heavens starfall great immortal technique was used, the outcome was already decided. Rumble. That scene was incomparably spectacular. It was as if billions of stars had fallen from the 9 heavens, converging into a vast galaxy, forming an incomparably terrifying starry domain. It enveloped Ling Xiao and was about to kill him. Ling Xiao's expression remained calm and indifferent. Boom! Dazzling celestial light bloomed around him. The celestial light became extremely sharp, like sword qi, and swept across the surroundings in an instant. An incomparably terrifying murderous aura and killing intent spread out from Ling Xiao's body. It contained the ultimate slaughter intent realm. At that moment, he seemed to have transformed into a demon god, wanting to slaughter billions of living beings. Great slaughter immortal technique. Ling Xiao shouted in his heart. Rumble. In an instant, billions of celestial lights gushed out from his palm. Each of them contained a terrifying aura of slaughter and destruction. They covered the sky and covered the earth as they enveloped Ren Xiaoyao. Each of the celestial lights could penetrate the heavens and earth, and each of the sword qi could destroy everything. In an instant, the power tore apart the starlight in the sky and collided with the unparalleled 9 heavens starfall great immortal technique. A crisp sound rang out. In an instant, the surrounding heavens and earth trembled. Stars shattered one after another. The billions of stars that were formed from the star source seemed to be unable to withstand such a terrifying sword qi and were annihilated one after another. In just an instant, the star domain that enveloped Ling Xiao was completely shattered. The slaughter sword qi that filled the sky, which contained the aura of the slaughter origin, enveloped Ren Xiaoyao. What? Ren Xiaoyao's body shook violently, and his eyes were filled with incomparable horror. He did not expect that his 9 heavens starfall great immortal technique would be broken so easily by Ling Xiao. The slaughter sword qi that covered the sky made his scalp tingle. His body trembled, and the depths of his soul were throbbing. It was as if he was about to die. Rumble. Ren Xiaoyao did not even think about it. He slashed out with the immortal sword in his hand. Streams of sword qi crisscrossed, forming a defensive storm that enveloped his body. At the same time, he still felt insecure. The blazing light around him rose, and the clothes on his body bloomed with bright runes. It was a powerful defensive immortal artifact, and at this moment, it was completely activated by him. The light in his palm was dazzling, and a small crimson shield appeared. It expanded against the wind and blocked in front of him. He was completely scared. However, the terrifying slaughter sword qi quickly enveloped him, tore through the defensive storm, and blasted on the small crimson shield. The runes were annihilated. The small crimson shield was a powerful supreme-grade immortal artifact, but it still could not resist. In the end, cracks appeared on it, and then it directly collapsed. The clothes on his body also trembled violently. The runes were destroyed, and it began to disintegrate. Even with so many defensive means, it was impossible to resist the surging slaughter sword qi. Ancestor, save me. Ren Xiaoyao's eyes were filled with despair as he roared crazily. How dare you? Above the sky, the Tianshu Immortal Lord's eyes flashed with a cold light. He slapped down from the sky. In an instant, endless flames gathered and formed a huge palm print. It collided with the slaughter sword chi and annihilated all the sword chi. He reached out in the air and grabbed Ren Xiaoyao back. If he had not taken action, Ren Xiaoyao would have died in Ling Zhao's hands. Is this the power of the great slaughter of immortals technique? Ling Xiao exclaimed in his heart. Under this blow, Ren Xiaoyao was almost obliterated. Although the Tianshu Immortal Lord had blocked the Massacre Sword Chi, Ling Xiao could clearly see that the Massacre Sword Chi had left scars on the Tianshu Immortal Lord's palms. The Tianshu Immortal Lord's cultivation was at least above the fourth heaven of the Immortal Lord realm. He had already condensed the origin source immortal body, but he was still injured by the great slaughter of immortals technique. If I can get the immortal culling sword and combine it with the great slaughter of immortals technique, I will be able to slay even gods and immortals. Ling Xiao thought to himself. Lei Ling won the second martial battle. Everyone was stunned at this moment, and their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Ren Xiaoyao was defeated? The Nine Heavens Stars Fall Immortal technique was such a powerful emperor technique, but it was still defeated by Ling Xiao. What was the last immortal technique that Ling Xiao used? Everyone's hearts were filled with doubts and shock. P.S. I originally planned to write in seclusion during the May Day holiday, but the plan could not keep up with the changes. I went out with my wife, so I did not update much. I will find opportunities to update more. Everyone, go to bed early. Chapter 2948. Your Excellency, aren't you too vicious? Tianshu Immortal Master stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly, his eyes surging with cold, killing intent. If he had not acted in time, Ren Xiaoyao would have died in Ling Zhao's hands. He was extremely shocked. The powerful celestial art that Ling Xiao used at the end made him feel extremely unfamiliar, but its power was extremely terrifying. It directly tore apart the Nine Heavens Stars Fall Immortal art and defeated Ren Xiaoyao. The aura of the slaughter origin alarmed the Dubhe Immortal Lord. However, although Ren Xiaoyao came back, he was seriously injured. His flesh and meridians were destroyed by the slaughter origin aura and could not be recovered in a short time. Tianshu Immortal Master was extremely angry. This was the holy son of Alcade Immortal Sect, the hope of the future, but he was defeated by Ling Xiao. He could not wait to kill Ling Xiao. However, when he saw Madame Fuyao's warning look and thought of the next plan, he forced himself to hold back. Vicious? If I were not powerful, I would not have ended up better than Ren Xiaoyao in front of the Nine Heavens Stars Fall Immortal art. Tianshu Immortal Master is really childish. In the arena, life and death are up to fate. If he did not admit defeat, he deserved to be killed by me. However, as the referee, Tianshu Immortal Master acted without permission. Isn't this breaking the rules? Ling Xiao responded faintly. His eyes were as bright as lightning, as if there was a blazing light piercing through the void. Facing Tianshu Immortal Master, he still showed no fear. Very good. Lei Ling, I will remember you. Ren Xiaoyao admits defeat in this battle. Tianshu Immortal Master's face turned cold and he looked deeply at Ling Xiao. Everyone's expression was a little strange. Lei Ling was really audacious. He did not give face to Tianshu Immortal Master. Did he really think that the Jie family could protect him? Many people looked at Lei Ling with sympathy and schadenfreude. After offending the unfettered Saint's son and Dubhe Immortal Lord, Lei Ling was doomed. Seeing that Tianshu Immortal Master had restrained himself, Madame Fuyao's gaze also returned to calmness. She said faintly, the Jie family wins the second battle. Following Madame Fuyao's announcement, the martial battle officially came to an end. Ren Xiaoyao woke up slowly. After hearing the result, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted again. This time, he fainted from anger. Lei Ling, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Xie Wushuang's eyes revealed a trace of amazement. She knew Ren Xiaoyao very well, especially the last move of the Nine Heavens Stars Fall Great Immortal technique. Even she would find it difficult to withstand it. It was very likely that she would be defeated by Ren Xiaoyao. However, not only had Ling Xiao withstood the attack, he had even defeated Ren Xiaoyao with lightning speed. Fairy Wushuang, I fulfilled my mission, right? Now it's 1 win and 1 loss. The most important thing now is the third battle. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. That's right. For the third battle, the Jie family and the Shi family will each send 3 people. We will directly enter the Immortal Coalescence Emperor Array to choose the Immortal Stone. Whoever can get the core of the array will win the stone opening ceremony and control the Immortal Coalescence Emperor Array. Xie Wushuang said seriously. Who is the Jie family going to send? Ling Xiao asked. Young Master Lei Ling, you and I will fight together with young Master Heiyun. Xie Wushuang smiled faintly and pointed at young Master Heiyun in the distance. Young Master Heiyun immediately walked over. Ling Xiao frowned slightly. He did not expect Xie Wushuang to choose young Master Heiyun. This guy was really annoying. However, what surprised Ling Xiao was that when young Master Heiyun saw him this time, the arrogance on his face completely disappeared. Instead, he revealed an extremely flattering smile. Senior, I'm so honored to be able to participate in the battle with you. I believe that with your supreme luck, you will definitely be able to get the core of the array. Young Master Heiyun nodded and bowed to Ling Xiao. Senior? Why do you call me senior? Ling Xiao was slightly stunned and had a bad feeling in his heart. Senior, of course you are my senior. I was ignorant and offended you. Senior, please don't blame me. I didn't expect you to be the famous Lei Ling, who is also Madam's favorite. I'm just a latecomer. There are still many things I need your advice on. Young Master Heiyun said modestly. Ling Zhao's body trembled and his face turned green. He finally understood young Master Heiyun's identity and why he had never seen young Master Heiyun before, even though he was from the ancient god cult. This guy was actually Madame Fu Yao's new boy toy. No wonder young Master Heiyun called him senior. In young Master Heiyun's eyes, Lei Ling had committed such a huge mistake and was still forgiven by Madame Fu Yao. Since Lei Ling was in the emperor's heart, he naturally had to serve him carefully. You are the senior. Your whole family are seniors. In the future, you are not allowed to call me senior. Call me Lei Ling. Ling Xiao glared at young Master Heiyun fiercely. In Lei Ling's memory, there were rumors in the ancient god cult that Madame Fu Yao had been unrestrained ever since the cult leader went into seclusion. She kept boy toys and liked handsome young men the most. Lei Ling didn't believe it previously. However, when Ling Xiao saw young Master Heiyun's behavior, he had no choice but to believe it. This Madame Fu Yao was really hardcore. At this moment, Madame Fu Yao looked at Ling Xiao and young Master Heiyun. She revealed a smile and revealed a myriad of amorous feelings. Ling Xiao couldn't help but shudder. His face turned ghastly pale. Right, senior. Young Master Lei Ling. Young Master Heiyun didn't know why Ling Xiao was so repulsed. He was a little confused but still nodded and agreed. After hearing young Master Heiyun's words, even Xie Wushuang looked at Ling Xiao with a strange look in her eyes. This time, I can't clear my name. Ling Xiao smiled bitterly in his heart. The third round of the stone opening ceremony, the formation battle begins. As Madame Fu Yao's voice resounded in the void, the third round of the formation battle began. It's here. Everyone's spirits were shaken, and their eyes were filled with anticipation. This was the highlight of the stone opening ceremony. It also represented who would be able to completely control the immortal ancient city in the next 10,000 years. The 3 people from the Jie family were Xie Wushuang, Ling Xiao, and young Master Heiyun. The 3 people from the Shi family were the 3 siblings, Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianing. The 6 of them stepped on the void and looked at each other. Suddenly, there was a burst of bright light and sparks. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 6 figures instantly flew and plunged into the formation space below. Peek. Chapter 2949. The formation space was the core area of the Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation. It was located under the White Jade Square and was also the intersection of the Divine Path Aura and the Immortal Path Aura. It contained boundless energy. In this area, Many immortal stones would be born every 10,000 years. The third battle was to find the immortal stones that contain the core of the formation in the formation space. Then, through stone cutting, they would refine the formation core and control the immortal coalescence emperor formation. The rules were simple. This battle did not restrict any means. Even if the other party obtained the formation core, as long as they were strong enough, they could snatch it back. Therefore, the battle between the Jie family and the Shi family was not only a battle of stone-cutting skills, but they also had to guard against each other's sneak attacks and find the formation core as quickly as possible. However, in this battle, Ling Xiao had shown great combat strength, so Jie Wushuang was relieved. On the contrary, the Shi family should be worried the most. After all, although Shi Wuji was strong, he was only on par with Ren Xiaoyao. According to the combat strength that Ling Xiao had shown, even if the three siblings of the Shi family attacked together, they would not be a match for Ling Xiao. Rumble. The formation space of the immortal coalescence emperor formation was a gray area. Propitious vapors rose and mist filled the air. On the ground, there were many immortal stones that shone with immortal light. This formation space was like a mustard seed. It did not look big from the outside, but from the inside, it was tens of thousands of miles long. Moreover, everyone outside could see everything that was happening in the space of the formation. However, no one could interfere, not even Madame Fuyao and the Dubhe Immortal Master. They could only wait for them to come out and determine the winner. Who do you think will get the formation core this time? Someone asked curiously. It's hard to say. The Shi family has a higher chance of winning. After all, they have controlled the immortal coalescence emperor formation for 30,000 years and won the stone-cutting ceremony. This time will be no exception. But I'm afraid that Lei Ling will not follow the rules. With his strength, if he were to snatch the core of the array when the three Shi siblings discovered it, I'm afraid that the three Shi siblings might not be his match. There's no other way. Every dog has its day. The Jie family may really win this stone-cutting ceremony. Everyone looked at the scene in the array space and started discussing. The core of the array resonates with our bloodline, so we will definitely be able to find the core of the array faster than the Xie family. The only thing I'm worried about now is Lei Ling. His combat power is strong. If he forcefully snatches the core of the array, it will be troublesome. Within the formation space, Shi Wuji transmitted his voice to Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianning. Lei Ling? He was just a clown. Big brother, if he dares to snatch the core of the formation, we'll use the destruction talisman to kill him. Shi Tianning sneered as a cold, killing intent flashed in her eyes. The extermination immortal talisman is a supreme immortal emperor talisman. Out of the 3 chances, we have already used it twice. We only have 1 chance left. Don't waste the destruction immortal talisman unless you have no other choice. Shi Qingyi said slowly. That's right. When we find the core of the array, the 2 of you just have to hold Lei Ling back for a while. I will be able to refine the core of the array. Don't use the destruction immortal talisman if you can. Shi Wuji nodded and said, Don't worry, big brother. I won't let anyone disturb you while you're refining the formation core. Shi Tianning said confidently. Let's find the core of the array as soon as possible. When I gain control of the immortal coalescence emperor array, not only Lei Ling, but also the Xie family will be wiped out. Shi Wuji's eyes flashed with a cold, killing intent. Big brother, leave Xie Wushuang and that bitch Fuyao to me. I want to fuck them to death and let them know what it means to live a life worse than death. Shi Tianning said coldly. As you wish. Shi Wuji nodded and said, Sush, sush, sush. The 3 of them turned into 3 rays of light and instantly plunged into the depths of the formation space. Within the formation space, there was an area with a radius of 10,000 miles. There were at least a few 100,000 immortal stones here. Of course, most of the immortal stones were actually useless stones and could not be used to unlock treasures. However, there were also some precious immortal stones that might contain extremely precious treasures. At this moment, no matter how precious the treasures were, the Xie family and the Shi family did not care about them. All they wanted was the right to control the immortal Coalescence Emperor Ray. Only by controlling the Supreme Emperor Ray could they become the true owners of the immortal ancient city. Fairy Wushuang, what does the core of the immortal Coalescence Emperor Ray look like? Ling Xiao asked Xie Wushuang. The core of the immortal Coalescence Emperor Ray is not fixed in shape. Even if it was a small cauldron 30,000 years ago, a small sword 20,000 years ago, and an ancient seal 10,000 years ago. However, the core of the array is like the way of heaven and earth. It contains an extremely unique aura and is different from the other immortal stones. Besides testing one's stone-cutting skills, it also tests one's understanding of the array. Young Master Lei Ling, you are not familiar with the immortal Coalescence Emperor Ray. Hence, I hope that you can pick some immortal stones. Then I will sense the power of the array and pick the immortal stones that might contain the core of the array. I hope we can make it in time. The Shi family's perception of the core of the array is far better than ours. Xie Wushuang explained. Her eyes were full of deep worry. All right. Ling Xiao nodded and said, Young Master Lei Ling, I will help you pick the immortal stones. I am cultivating the nature creation skill of the divine sect. I can sense the nature creation skill. The immortal stones that contain treasures will not escape my senses. Young Master Black Cloud said with a flattering smile. In that case, let's split up and meet up with Fairy Wushuang. Ling Xiao said flatly. Then he rose into the air and flew into the distance. There were hundreds of thousands of immortal stones in the array space. Although Ling Xiao had the eye of the ruler and could see through the immortal stones, his power of the ruler was limited and he could not see through hundreds of thousands of immortal stones. Hence, he had to think of another way. Ling Xiao reached out and picked up an immortal stone. This immortal stone contained a majestic divine path aura and immortal path aura. It looked extraordinary and it was like a beating heart. Ling Xiao suddenly had an idea and activated the Divine Path Secret Skill and the Immortal Path Secret Skill. Suddenly, the Divine Path Aura and Immortal Path Aura in his body intertwined and turned into a mysterious devouring power that surged toward the Immortal Stone in his hand. Buzz! The Immortal Stone in his hand trembled slightly. In an instant, the majestic Divine Path Aura and Immortal Path Aura were refined by Ling Xiao's two origin secret skills and integrated into Ling Xiao's body. The Immortal Stone in his hand dimmed. Soon, the surface of the stone shattered and revealed the item inside. It was empty. It was a useless stone. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly. He thought he had finally found the fastest way to find the core of the array. Top. Chapter 2950. Ling Xiao used the Heavenly God Secret Skill and Heavenly Immortal Secret Skill to quickly cut the stone and devour the Divine Dao and Immortal Dao aura in the Immortal Stone. Sui, WW, Suaming. Come, this was the real stone-cutting skill. However, Ling Xiao had done it discreetly. Even if those outside the formation space could see what was going on inside, they could only see that Ling Xiao had destroyed an immortal stone. Ling Xiao could quickly cut the stone with the Heavenly God Secret Skill and Heavenly Immortal Secret Skill. He could also detect the intensity of the Divine Dao and Immortal Dao aura. Since it was the core of the Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation, it must contain the Emperor's aura. Ling Xiao only needed to use the Heavenly God Secret Skill and Heavenly Immortal Secret Skill to detect if the Immortal Stone contained the Emperor's aura. There was no need to cut the stone. Buzz! Ling Xiao was surrounded by dazzling immortal light. He leaped up and flew into the distance. He used the Heavenly Immortal Secret Skill and Heavenly God Secret Skill to detect if the immortal stones contained the Emperor's aura. These immortal stones came from all over the immortal world. Does this Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation contain the power of multiple dimensions? Ling Xiao thought to himself. These immortal stones were clearly not produced here. Even 10,000 years could not have produced so many immortal stones. These immortal stones came from all over the immortal world. They were clearly transported here by the Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation using a unique method. Of course, most of these immortal stones did not contain any treasures. Even if there were some treasures, Ling Xiao did not care about most of them. It's an origin source immortal medicine? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He suddenly saw an immortal stone in front of him. It was shining with immortal light and filled with auspicious qi. It looked extraordinary, and there was an origin source immortal medicine in it. The origin source immortal medicine looked very unique. It looked like a snow-white ginseng. It was chubby but had a human face. It was sleeping soundly in the immortal stone. White Jade Immortal King Ginseng? The name of this origin source immortal medicine appeared in Ling Xiao's mind. White Jade Immortal King Ginseng was the main ingredient for refining supreme immortal elixirs. It could allow one to be reborn and condensed body of origin. It was extremely precious. However, according to Lei Ling's memories, even in the immortal world, the White Jade Immortal King Ginseng was extremely rare. Ling Xiao naturally didn't hold back. He reached out and grabbed. Immediately, the celestial stone landed in his palm and he put it away. There were hundreds of thousands of immortal stones here. Every time the Jie clan and the Shi clan held the stone opening ceremony, they would enter this place to fight. Although their main goal was to find the core of the formation, they would also selectively take away some immortal stones. As long as it was not too excessive, taking away dozens of immortal stones was not a big deal. The Jie and Shi families had already tacitly agreed. However, after so many years, they all knew that there were basically no treasures in the immortal stones here, so very few people would take the immortal stones here. Ling Xiao's speed wasn't fast. He looked slow as if he was wandering around. However, no one noticed that he was surrounded by resplendent immortal light. He was using the Heavenly Deity Secret Technique and Heavenly Immortal Secret Technique to investigate the immortal stones. Trying to find the core of the formation among hundreds of thousands of immortal stones was like looking for a needle in a haystack. However, Ling Xiao was not in a hurry. He was very fast and could investigate dozens of immortal stones in an instant. He would only use the eye of the ruler to investigate those extremely special immortal stones. It's the Great Tao Immortal Metal? I've struck gold. Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly lit up. He saw that in one of the immortal stones in front of him, there was a piece of metal the size of a fist. It emitted resplendent immortal light and flowed with the aura of the Great Tao origin. It was very mysterious. It was another piece of extreme Tao metal. The Great Tao Immortal Metal was not inferior to the 5 elements immortal metal. It was an extreme Tao metal unique to the immortal realm and could be used to refine extreme Tao emperor weapons. Ling Xiao naturally didn't stand on ceremony and kept the immortal stone. Along the way, Ling Xiao found that most of the immortal stones were useless stones. Although some of them contained treasures, he didn't care about them. However, even so, there were still some fish that escaped the net. Ling Xiao found dozens of origin source immortal herbs, a few supreme grade immortal weapons, a piece of extreme Tao metal, and a few unknown elixirs. Along the way, he had a bountiful harvest. However, Ling Xiao still couldn't find the core of the formation. It's not a good idea to continue searching like this, Ling Xiao thought to himself. At this moment, Ling Xiao found Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianyi. Unknowingly, he had arrived at the area that the Shi family was searching. Shi Wuji looked at Ling Xiao coldly and ignored him. He continued to fly forward. Something's not right. The 3 from the Shi family didn't search the immortal stones one by one. Instead, they went directly in a certain direction as if they already knew what was ahead. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with golden light. Shi Wuji, Shi Tianyi, and Shi Qingyi also noticed Ling Xiao. However, they ignored him and went to a specific area to search. I see. Through observation, Ling Xiao found something strange about the 3 Shi family siblings. It turned out that the 3 of them seemed to have a fixed area. They didn't search the immortal stones one by one. Instead, they came to a certain area, checked the immortal stones there, and went to the next area. I might be able to pick up some scraps if I follow them. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He gave up searching aimlessly and chased after the 3 of them. Ling Xiao didn't get close to them. He was hundreds of feet away from them, but he followed behind them closely. After seeing the three Shi family siblings stop, Ling Xiao used the Sky Immortal's secret skill and the Sky God's secret skill to search for the immortal stones in this area. Ling Xiao's efficiency was more than 100 or 1,000 times greater than theirs. Big brother, Lei Ling has been following us. Shi Tianying said coldly. Don't worry about him. Is he trying to take advantage of us by following us? How can there be such a good thing? If I find the core of the formation later, you guys stop him. I only need a moment to refine the core of the formation. Shi Wuji said with a sneer. Big brother is right. Does Lei Ling really think that the Shi family is a pushover? We must teach him a lesson later. Shi Qingyi said coldly. The three of them seemed to have a clear division of labor. After quickly searching for the immortal stones in a certain area, they flew to the next area. Ling Xiao was also very patient. He followed them for hundreds of feet. When they stopped, Ling Xiao also stopped to search for the immortal stones. Just like that, Ling Xiao followed them for a few thousand miles. Chapter 2951. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with light. He saw that the three Shi siblings had stopped, but this area was clearly different. The immortal stones here were extremely large, with a radius of about 10 feet. They had strange shapes and were very different from the immortal stones in other areas. Most importantly, Ling Xiao felt that the immortal stones here contained an extremely majestic divine path aura and immortal path aura, far surpassing that of other areas. Ling Xiao's body was surrounded by mysterious rays of light as he probed the surrounding immortal stones. At the same time, the eyes of the three Shi siblings seemed to light up. They quickly probed the immortal stones, picking them up and then putting them down, searching for the formation core. However, they were not as fast as Ling Xiao. Soon, Ling Xiao found that one of the immortal stones was a little strange. The immortal stone was only the size of a fist and looked very inconspicuous. There were holes on it from which faint immortal light shot out. However, Ling Xiao could sense a faint trace of extreme emperor's might from the immortal stone. Buzz. Without hesitation, Ling Xiao used the ruler's eye to look at it. Suddenly, the layers of stone disappeared in front of Ling Xiao, and he saw the inside of the immortal stone. It was a bead, black and white in color, flowing with a mysterious extreme emperor aura. It looked very colorful and very mysterious. Ling Xiao felt the strange fluctuations of the sun, moon, stars, and all things in the world from the bead. It was the power of the formation. That's it. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly. He was immediately sure that the black and white bead in the immortal stone was the formation core. Without hesitation, Ling Xiao leaped over and grabbed at the immortal stone in the air. However, at this moment, Shi Wuji also noticed that the immortal stone was acting strangely. Qingyi Tsang, stop him! Shi Wuji roared and grabbed at the immortal stone as well. Shi Tianying and Shi Qingyi were slightly taken aback. Then, powerful immortal light bloomed around them, and they charged at Ling Xiao. However, they were still one step too late. Ling Xiao arrived in front of the immortal stone in the blink of an eye. Just as Shi Wuji shouted, Ling Xiao had already grabbed the immortal stone. This godly immortal rock is mine. Ling Xiao smiled. His smile was extremely radiant. However, Shi Wuji's expression was extremely ugly. Although he did not examine it carefully, he was 90% certain that the core of the formation was in the immortal rock in Ling Xiao's hand. Lei Ling, hand over the immortal stone in your hand. Otherwise die. Shi Wuji said coldly. There was a cold, killing intent in his eyes. He was determined to get the core of the formation. No matter who dared to stop him from obtaining the array core, they would all die. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianying instantly appeared around Ling Xiao and surrounded him. Their eyes were filled with coldness. With just the three of you? Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His gaze was extremely calm, but his entire body exuded an extremely dangerous aura. Kill him. Shi Wuji's eyes were filled with killing intent. In an instant, a formation map appeared in his hand. He then pressed it down towards Ling Xiao. Rumble. Blazing divine light blossomed as dazzling runes appeared one after another. The formation spread out, and the crisp sound of a sword rang out, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. Ling Xiao only felt the light in front of him changing. His entire body was enveloped by the space formed by the formation map. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Streaks of sword chi pierced through the heavens and earth. They were hundreds of millions of feet long. In front of Ling Xiao, there seemed to be a sword domain. Countless streaks of sword chi swept towards him like a storm. Kill! 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 3 cold roars were heard. Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianying each held a black ancient sword in their hands. They exuded a monstrous killing intent as they charged towards Ling Xiao. What a powerful formation map! Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of amazement. The formation map was incomparably ancient. It contained slaughter sword intent as if it could destroy everything. It could even pose a great threat to an immortal monarch. Shi Wuji's cultivation base was at the immortal venerable realm. Shi Tianying and Shi Qingyi were slightly weaker. However, the 3 black ancient swords in their hands caused their aura to skyrocket. They were like 3 peerless immortal venerables as they charged towards Ling Xiao. Get lost. A sharp glint flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. Facing the surging sword chi, he was not afraid at all. Instead, he suddenly roared out. It was as if a dragon's roar had exploded between the heavens and earth. It contained a terrifying sound wave that shattered the sword chi that was sweeping across the sky. Ling Xiao took a step forward and threw out a punch. Crack! Blazing lightning exploded. The unparalleled fist print swept across the void and penetrated the heavens and earth in an instant. It was like an immemorial divine mountain, standing in front of Shi Wuji and the other 2. The huge fist print was ancient and mysterious. It was incomparably ferocious. In an instant, it collided with the 3 sharp black ancient swords. Clang! Sparks flew in all directions as the surrounding void trembled violently. The 3 Shi brothers' faces changed abruptly, revealing a trace of disbelief. They were suddenly sent flying backwards, their bodies trembling violently. You useless chickens and dogs dare to snatch the immortal stone from my hands? Ling Xiao sneered. His voice was like a thunderclap that exploded in the void. His purple hair fluttered in the wind. His face was like jade, and his eyes were like stars. He looked carefree and unrestrained as if he was the focus of the heavens and earth. His robe fluttered in the wind. Every step he took seemed to be stepping on the node of the heavens and earth, causing the surrounding heavens and earth to rumble. His entire body was emitting an extraordinary aura. The battle between Ling Xiao and the 3 Shi brothers had alerted Jie Wushuang and Master Heiyun almost instantly. Not good. Lei Ling and Shi Wuji are fighting. Jie Wushuang and Master Heiyun looked at each other, revealing a trace of strong fighting spirit in their eyes. They instantly flew towards the place where the battle had erupted. Outside the formation space, everyone's expression suddenly changed as their gazes fell on the center of the battlefield. They did not expect that Ling Xiao would be the first to obtain the immortal stone that contained the core of the formation. Even though the stone had not been opened and it had not been verified, the intense battle between Ling Xiao and the 3 Shi brothers and sisters made them understand that the immortal stone in Ling Xiao's hand must contain the core of the formation. Now, it was up to the Jie family and the Shi family, who would be able to obtain the core of the formation. This battle was unavoidable. Peak. Chapter 2952. The formation diagram that Shi Wuji used was called the Limitless Sword Formation Diagram. It contained billions of limitless sword chi. Each limitless sword chi was formed from the power of metal and was extremely powerful. The black ancient swords in the hands of the 3 siblings were 3 limitless swords. They were a set with the Limitless Sword Formation Diagram, allowing them to move freely in the Limitless Sword Formation Diagram and control billions of limitless sword chi at the same time. Each limitless sword chi was comparable to the power of an immortal king. Its power was extremely terrifying. With the limitless sword in hand, Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianning all had the combat strength of an invincible immortal venerable. If an ordinary immortal venerable was trapped in the sword formation, his soul would have been completely destroyed. With the limitless sword formation diagram, Shi Wuji was even confident that he could fight against an immortal monarch expert. This was naturally the treasure that the Shi family had obtained from the divine jade immortal fetus over the countless years. It was a treasure refined by a limitless immortal monarch in the ancient times. Its power was unparalleled, and it contained a trace of sword Dao origin power. In the limitless sword formation diagram, Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianning all held the limitless sword in their hands. They turned into 3 resplendent balls of light and controlled billions of limitless sword qi. Like lightning, they all charged towards Ling Xiao. Streaks of sharp sword qi tore through the void. They were dazzling like brilliant fireworks, but they also contained extremely terrifying killing intent. Boom! Ling Xiao's eyes were like lightning, and his body emitted a mysterious and eternal glow. His fists were like dragons, controlling endless lightning. Every single punch was ferocious and domineering, obliterating the sword qi that filled the sky. Although the limitless sword qi was fierce, they couldn't get close to Ling Xiao at all. They were all exploded by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao walked over as if he was pushing the sun, moon, and stars. The limitless sword qi around him was annihilated, turning into a resplendent rain of light. How can he be so strong? Shi Wuji was shocked, and his expression was extremely ugly. Although the 3 of them were holding the limitless sword and could control the power of the limitless sword formation diagram, facing Ling Xiao was like facing the vast might of the heavens. Every punch of Ling Xiao caused the blood in their bodies to churn and shake violently. Boom! Ling Xiao arrived in front of Shi Wuji and the other 2. He punched out in the air, using his bare fist to block the infinite sword. A blazing light burst out, causing the infinite sword to tremble violently. Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianning, who were slightly weaker, trembled violently and were sent flying. Whoosh! Ling Xiao kicked out in the air, causing the limitless sword qi to explode. Then, without slowing down, he kicked towards Shi Wuji's head. Shi Wuji was shocked and furious. He slashed down with the limitless sword, wanting to cut off one of Ling Xiao's legs. Ling Xiao's figure was as fast as lightning. The tip of his foot was sharp as he avoided the blade and kicked the body of the sword, causing the Wuji sword to hum and tremble. Ling Xiao's gaze was incomparably cold. He directly extended 2 fingers that were as translucent as jade and caught the infinite sword. Then, with a sudden jolt, an unparalleled divine force passed through the infinite sword and into Shi Wuji's body. Shi Wuji's arm went numb, and the infinite sword flew out of his hand and landed in Ling Xiao's hand. With your meager strength, you want to imitate others and steal their treasures? Ling Xiao laughed disdainfully. Boom! With the infinite sword in his hand, he suddenly shook it. In an instant, a mighty thunderbolt exploded. A wave of heavenly punishment rushed into the infinite sword, causing it to shine brightly. The infinite sword buzzed and trembled, as if it wanted to break free from Ling Xiao's control, but was forcefully suppressed by Ling Xiao. The infinite sword in Ling Xiao's hand suddenly spewed out a terrifying heavenly punishment force. It was like a light pillar that penetrated the heavens and earth, directly piercing through the void. Boom! Wrapped in a sword light that was hundreds of millions of feet long, Ling Xiao directly slashed down with his sword. The surrounding infinite sword qi was annihilated. The void trembled violently, and the space formed by the infinite sword formation was directly cut open by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao took a step forward and walked out of the area covered by the infinite sword formation. Shi Wuji, are you trying to start a war between the Jie and Shi family? At this moment, Jie Wushuang also rushed over. She coldly reprimanded, her face was as cold as frost, and her eyes revealed a trace of cold killing intent. She did not expect Shi Wuji and his siblings to be so unscrupulous. They directly besieged Ling Xiao and wanted to snatch the array core from Ling Xiao. War? Hasn't the war already begun? Shi Wuji sneered, a trace of ferocious killing intent in his eyes. Both the Jie and Shi families understood that the array core was the most important. Whoever could obtain the array core and control the immortal coalescence emperor array would be able to control the life and death of the other party. Therefore, for the sake of the array core, both parties would do anything. Fairy Wushuang, the array core is in this immortal stone. Quickly refine it. Leave the three of them to me. Ling Xiao said indifferently, a trace of strong fighting intent in his eyes. He handed the immortal stone to Jie Wushuang. Is it really the array core? Jie Wushuang's face revealed a surprised and delighted expression. She had guessed that the immortal stone might be the array core. Otherwise, the three Shi siblings would not be so determined to kill Ling Xiao. She did not expect that the array core would have to be obtained by Ling Xiao. Be careful. Jie Wushuang knew that this was not the time to be courteous. After receiving the immortal stone, she said to Ling Xiao seriously. Young Master Heiyun's eyes were full of vigilance. He protected Jie Wushuang and began to retreat. Ling Xiao stood in front of the three Shi brothers. Kill them. Shi Wuji's eyes revealed a trace of ferocious killing intent. In an instant, a terrifying aura rose from his body, and a blazing immortal light bloomed. Flames began to rise around his body, and in an instant, three immortal swords appeared. At the same time, the infinite sword floated in front of him, releasing an unparalleled sword chi. Shi Wuji chose to burn his immortal body in exchange for a few times more power. Then, he controlled the infinite sword and directly released a monstrous sword chi. It covered the sky and enveloped Ling Xiao, young Master Heiyun, and Jie Wushuang. At the same time, Shi Wuji's words were like a signal. Shi Qingyi's eyes revealed a trace of crazy killing intent. Light flashed in her hand and an immortal talisman surrounded by resplendent immortal light appeared. The word, annihilate, was engraved on the talisman using ancient inscriptions. A terrifying destructive force spread out from the immortal talisman, as if it was going to destroy the world. That terrifying aura made Jie Wushuang and young Master Heiyun's faces change. Their eyes revealed an incomparably shocked look. Not good. It's the destruction immortal talisman. Xie Wushuang shouted. Her voice was filled with anxiety. At the same time, Ling Xiao also felt a strong threat. The destructive aura contained in the immortal talisman was actually the destruction origin. It was extremely terrifying. This was an immortal talisman that could pose a great threat to him. Chapter 2953. Sush. Ling Xiao basically used a teleportation secret technique in an instant, directly teleporting tens of thousands of meters away. He appeared in front of Shi Qingyi in an extremely strange manner. At the same time, Ling Xiao dodged Shi Wuji's infinite sword chi. Freeze! Ling Xiao uttered an ancient syllable. Boom! A vast power of time exploded from his body. It was as if the world had frozen in an instant. The mysterious power of time enveloped Shi Qingyi and stopped in an instant. This was the power of the time cycle. Ling Xiao did not hesitate to expose part of his strength and chose to freeze Shi Qingyi with the Time Sutra. Shi Qingyi's cultivation was originally lower than Ling Xiao's, so she could not escape from the time-stop domain. She felt that she had lost all feeling in her body and could not move. However, her mind did not stop. Therefore, she watched as Ling Xiao took the destruction immortal talisman from her hand. She did not have time to activate the destruction immortal talisman. No! Shi Wuji let out an incomparably shrill roar filled with anger and disbelief. Originally, Shi Wuji planned to control the infinite sword chi to delay Ling Xiao, Jie Wushuang, and Prince Heiyun. Then, he would give Shi Qingyi time to activate the destruction immortal talisman and completely bury the three of them in one fell swoop. However, he did not expect Ling Xiao's strength to be so terrifying. Not only did he appear in front of Shi Qingyi like a ghost, he even snatched the destruction immortal talisman from Shi Qingyi. Shi Wuji did not have time to help at all. He could only watch as the destruction immortal talisman fell into Ling Xiao's hand. This was their trump card and trump card, the destruction immortal talisman that could kill an immortal monarch. In an instant, Shi Wuji hated Ling Xiao to the extreme. Alright, Prince Lei Ling, kill them. Jie Wushuang's eyes revealed an inexplicably surprised expression. Then she said decisively. When Shi Qingyi took out the Destruction Immortal Talisman, she was already in despair. She naturally knew the Shi family's Destruction Immortal Talisman. It was a trump card that could kill an immortal monarch. Although she also had the Jie family's powerful trump card, it could not block the Destruction Immortal Talisman. She almost thought that the three of them would die here. However, she did not expect Ling Xiao to snatch the Destruction Immortal Talisman at the critical moment. The Xie family and the Shi family were already mortal enemies. At this point, the two families had completely shed all pretense of cordiality. There was no room for negotiation, so Xie Wushuang directly gave up refining the array core now and rushed towards Shi Wuji. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Without the slightest hesitation, he struck out with his palm. Bang! He slapped the top of Shi Qingyi's head, and the terrifying power of heavenly retribution rushed into Shi Qingyi's sea of consciousness, smashing her primordial spirit into smithereens. Shi Qingyi's eyes were devouring. His face was filled with terror. He didn't even have a chance to fight back until he died. The divine light in his eyes dimmed, and he directly died. Ruthlessly destroying a flower. Ling Xiao didn't hesitate at all and killed Shi Qingyi. At this point, Ling Xiao knew that the war between the Xie and Shi families had officially started, so he decided to be ruthless. Second sister. Second sister. Shi Wuji and Shi Tianying roared furiously. Their voices were extremely mournful and filled with bone-deep hatred. Right in front of their eyes, Ling Xiao killed Shi Qingyi. Their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and their hearts were filled with extreme hatred. Boom! Ling Xiao's eyes were cold. Without the slightest hesitation, his figure flashed and appeared in front of Shi Tianying. He punched out in the air, and an unparalleled fist print directly landed on Shi Tianying's chest. Lei Ling. Shi Tianying's eyes instantly bulged out, and blood flowed out of her orifices. With bone-deep hatred, she spat out blood from her mouth. She only had time to spit out a few syllables before her entire body exploded and died. In the void, blood rained down. Shi Tianying was blasted apart by Ling Xiao's punch. In the blink of an eye, the three siblings of the Shi family, Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying, had all died in Ling Xiao's hands. Only Shi Wuji was left. Those who kill will be killed by others. Ling Xiao said indifferently, and his gaze landed on Shi Wuji. At this moment, outside the array space, everyone was stunned. All of this happened too quickly, so quickly that no one had time to react. In the beginning, Shi Wuji had set up the limitless sword array and led Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying to kill Ling Xiao and steal his treasures. However, they did not expect Ling Xiao to break out of the encirclement and kill Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying in the blink of an eye. Lei Ling, you're courting death. You'll pay with your life for killing the disciples of the Alcade Immortal Sect. Two incomparably cold voices exploded in the void. One contained monstrous hatred, and the other contained endless killing intent. They were the head of the Shi family, Shi Pejuan, and the Dubhe Immortal Lord. Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianying were the children of Shi Pejuan. Shi Qingyi was a disciple of the Alcade Immortal Sect, and the niece of the Dubhe Immortal Lord. She was also one of the most important disciples of the Alcade Immortal Sect. Originally, everything was under their control. After all, Shi Wuji and the other two had the limitless sword array and the Destruction Immortal Talisman. Especially the Destruction Immortal Talisman, it was a supreme treasure that could kill an immortal lord. In their opinion, the array core would definitely fall into Shi Wuji's hands. However, they did not expect Ling Xiao to be so ruthless. In an instant, he had killed Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying. They did not even have the chance to stop him. Rumble. Terrifying immortal light rose around Shi Pejuan and the Dubhe Immortal Lord. Emperor's aura filled the air. It was the aura of the great Tao origin. It seemed to be able to shatter the void and destroy everything. The two high immortals had gone mad. They actually couldn't help but directly rush over from the void, wanting to kill their way into the array space and kill Ling Xiao. Shi Pejuan, Do you want to start a war? Jiam Yesheng's body flashed, and he blocked Sherpajuan's path and said flatly, Dub he immortal lord, this is a matter of the ancient god cult. Does the Alcade Immortal sect have to get involved in this? Madame Fuyao also blocked the Dub he immortal lord and said coldly, Get out of my way. Those who block me will die. Jiam Yesheng, the war has begun. From today onwards, the Sher family will forsake the darkness and join the light. We will betray the Cthulhuism sect. Everyone has the right to kill the Jia family for colluding with the Cthulhuism sect. Sherpajuan's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he said coldly, Madame Fuyao, Lei Ling killed the disciples of the Alcade Immortal sect. He must die. Are you going to protect him? The Dub he immortal lord said coldly, Ha! What a good excuse. Let's cut the crap. Since the Alcade Immortal sect wants to fight, the ancient god cult will naturally accompany you. Madame Fuyao laughed loudly, and her eyes were filled with mockery. Rumble. She was surrounded by dazzling divine clouds and exuded an ancient aura. She was ethereal and stood opposite the Dub he immortal lord from afar. She was not at a disadvantage at all. In that case, let me have a taste of Madame's heaven and earth reversal divine technique. The Dub he immortal lord said flatly. Blazing starlight bloomed around him. In an instant he was connected to the 9 heavens and earth. Chapter 2954. Xie family and Sher family had completely fallen out with each other. Previously, they pretended to be polite because they wanted to win the stone dissecting ceremony and control the immortal coalescence emperor formation in immortal ancient city. But now, seeing that Ling Xiao and Xie Wushuang had obtained the core of the formation, Sher family could no longer hold back. If Xie family refined the core of the formation and controlled the immortal coalescence emperor formation, Sher family would be annihilated. Elders of Sher family, listen to my order. Quickly enter the space of the formation, kill Lei Ling and Xie Wushuang, and snatch the core of the formation. Sherpajuan roared. His voice was like a thunderclap that exploded in the void. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, a dozen figures with powerful auras flew out from the Sher family's camp and rushed towards the formation space. They were a dozen immortal reverends, each with an unfathomable aura. They were the elders of Sher family. Elders of Xie family, listen to my order. Quickly enter the space of the formation, protect Lei Ling and Xie Wushuang, and kill Sher Wuji. Jiam Yesheng also ordered in a deep voice. The elders of Xie family also turned into streams of light and rushed into the space of the formation. Both Xie family and Sher family knew that they couldn't let the other party refine the core of the formation. This way, they could maintain a stalemate. Otherwise, if one party refined the core of the formation, the situation would be reversed instantly. Rumble. Xie family and Sher family sent out a dozen immortal reverends, each with a terrifying aura, causing the void around to shake violently. Almost as soon as they entered the space of the formation, they began to fight. When immortal reverends fought, they could control the laws of heaven and earth, comprehending the power of the great Tao origin. Their attacks were extremely terrifying. Kill! In the void, Madame Fuyao and Tian Shu Immortal Lord faced each other from a distance. Suddenly, Tian Shu Immortal Lord's eyes flashed with killing intent. He roared and charged towards Madame Fuyao. Both of them were peerless experts in the immortal monarch realm. The moment they clashed, a destructive force exploded, causing the entire immortal ancient city to shake violently. Xie family and Sher family are fighting? Those who didn't know the inside story were shocked, their eyes filled with disbelief. It seems like Xie family and Sher family have shed all pretenses of cordiality. Legend has it that Sher family betrayed Old God sect and wanted to rely on Alcade Immortal sect. It seems like it's true. This is not a battle between Sher family and Xie family's God sect, but Alcade Immortal sect, God Divine sect and Immortal sect. Immortal Ancient City sects and Immortal Ancient City Immortal sect. Out family immortal 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 was immortal 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 sect. It's Xie family immortal immortal sect sect is immortal. Isn't that so? Xie. Xie sect imim sect Xie. Although they were afraid of being affected by the battle and retreated, they did not leave the immortal ancient city. After all, although no one had refined the core of the immortal ancient city and controlled the immortal coalescence emperor formation, the immortal coalescence emperor formation could protect the entire immortal ancient city. Therefore, it was the safest place for them to stay. Everyone looked at the battle between Xie family and Shi family with different expressions. They were all curious about who would win this battle. In addition to the celestial venerables, the Xie clan and the Shi clan each sent out 3 celestial monarchs. With Xie Mieshing and Shi Pejuan as the leaders, a fierce battle broke out. Although the Xie family was slightly weaker than the Shi family, they were both stone-cutting families after all. The accumulation of resources over countless years was also incomparably strong, so the difference was not big. Once a war broke out, it would be a life-and-death battle. It was actually soldier against soldier, general against general, maintaining an incomparably ingenious balance. In the void, no one could see the figures of Madame Fu Yao and Dubhe immortal monarch. They could only see 2 dazzling balls of light colliding with each other. Every blow exploded with terrifying energy waves. Blazing divine light gushed out in all directions, causing people's hearts to palpitate. Within the formation space, Ling Xiao, Xie Wushuang, and the many elders of the Shi family, led by Shi Wuji, began to fight. Originally, Ling Xiao had planned to attack and kill Shi Wuji as well. However, Shi Wuji had sensed the danger and had actually self-destructed 3 of his everlasting swords to block Soaring Cloud. Then, he quickly retreated back into the protection of the 10 or so elders. Xie Wushuang, hand over the core of the formation, kill Lei Ling and surrender with Xie family. I can spare your life. Otherwise, Xie family will be wiped out completely today. Shi Wuji stared at Xie Wushuang and said coldly. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Shi Wuji, you're really boasting shamelessly. Today, Xie family will fight to the death. The one who will be wiped out is your Shi family. Xie Wushuang said coldly. Fairy Wushuang, you refine the core of the formation. Let the elders of Shi family protect you. Leave Shi Wuji and Shi family to me. Ling Xiao said indifferently. A strong fighting intent surged in his eyes. Although Xie family and Shi family were in a stalemate now, as long as Xie Wushuang refined the core of the formation and gained control of the immortal unification emperor ray, the balance would be broken instantly. Therefore, Xie Wushuang was the focus of everyone. Xie family wanted to protect Xie Wushuang and refine the core of the formation as soon as possible. However, Shi family would not allow this to happen. Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying are already dead. I'll send you to reunite with them now. Ling Xiao said indifferently, facing Shi Wuji and the 12 immortal venerables of Shi family alone. Arrogant. Kill him. A cold light flashed in Shi Wuji's eyes. In an instant he pounced towards Ling Xiao. Rumble. More than 12 immortal venerables struck at the same time. The vast force caused the surrounding void to tremble violently. Immortal light surged as if it could shatter everything. Under the leadership of Shi Wuji, the 12 immortal venerables of Shi family formed an incomparably powerful battle formation, sharing their strength. With Shi Wuji as the core of the formation, Shi Wuji's chi skyrocketed rapidly, exuding an incomparably dangerous wave of energy. Kacha! Shi Wuji slashed down with his palm. It was like 100 million feet long flaming blade light that broke through layers of void. It was extremely terrifying and locked onto Ling Xiao, trying to kill him. Chapter 2955. Boom. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Without dodging, he threw out a punch. Blazing lightning exploded all of a sudden. Purple lightning rose around Ling Xiao's body. A mysterious heavenly might bloomed, as if it could destroy everything. His fist contained the power of extreme yang and was extremely ferocious. In an instant, it collided with the flaming saber light. Kacha! A muffled sound came from the void, and it began to distort violently. The flaming saber light actually exploded in an instant. Ling Xiao took a step forward, instantly crossing 10,000 zhang of void. His body exuded a vast heavenly might, and he threw out another punch. This was purely the strength of his physical body. Ling Xiao didn't use any powerful divine ability. He had Lei Ling as his disguise. Therefore, even if he unleashed the strength of his physical body, ordinary people wouldn't be able to see through him. However, he couldn't use the divine ability and secret arts of the divine world. Otherwise, he would be easily discovered by the experts of the immortal world. However, just the strength of his physical body was enough. Ling Xiao faced Shi Wuji and a dozen immortal venerables alone without the slightest fear. His eyes were filled with incomparably powerful battle intent. Kacha! Ling Xiao threw out an unparalleled punch, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. Although the immortal venerables of Shi family in front of him had gathered their strength together, their bodies still trembled when they were hit by Ling Xiao's punch. They couldn't help but spurt out a mouthful of blood. Several of them were sent flying. The formation of the battle formation was directly broken by Ling Xiao. This was absolute strength. Ling Xiao's primordial immortal body was incomparably terrifying. Even an ordinary immortal monarch expert would find it difficult to withstand a punch from him. Although there were a dozen immortal venerables here, they still weren't Ling Xiao's match. Hong Long Long. Ling Xiao's figure was like a purple lightning. His punch was like a dragon, and a vast dragon roar erupted from his body, causing the surrounding void to tremble. He was like a tiger that had entered a flock of sheep, fighting fiercely with Shi Wuji and the dozen immortal venerables of Shi family. Each of his attacks could destroy the heavens and earth, causing the immortal venerables of Shi family to tremble and be sent flying. No one was a match for his punch. Even Shi Wuji was no exception. Damn it! How can he be so strong? Shi Wuji's eyes were filled with disbelief. When did such a heaven-defying monster appear in the immortal world? Shi Wuji was somewhat famous in the immortal world. Together with Xie Wushuang, they were known as the peerless duo of the immortal ancient city. In the immortal world, they were kings of their generation. However, in front of Ling Xiao, he even began to doubt himself. Ling Xiao had crushed his self-esteem and the dozen or so immortal venerable elders of the Shi family with his cultivation of the same realm. Shi Wuji even felt that Ling Xiao's terrifying combat strength was probably only comparable to those high and mighty geniuses of the celestial world. While Ling Xiao was fighting the numerous immortal venerables of Shi family, Jie Wushuang had also completed the antidote stone. From the immortal stone, she took out a bead that was shrouded in black and white light. It looked mysterious and ancient, flowing with resplendent immortal light. This was the core of the immortal coalescence Emperor array. When the black and white bead appeared in the void, the surroundings trembled. Jie Wushuang held the black and white bead and felt that the array formation space around him had become incomparably intimate. It was as if she could influence the surrounding space through this black and white bead. Refine. Jie Wushuang sat cross-legged with her 5 hearts facing the sky. The black and white bead floated in front of her. Dazzling light bloomed from between her eyebrows. The force of her primordial spirit was constantly surging, trying to refine the black and white bead completely. The dozen or so immortal venerable elders of Jie family were guarding Jie Wushuang with incomparable vigilance, as if someone was about to launch a sneak attack. On the other side, Shi Wuji and the dozen or so immortal venerable elders of Shi family were all retreating while coughing out blood. They were all suppressed by Ling Xiao, as if they couldn't break through Ling Xiao's blockade and seize the core of the array formation. It seemed like it wouldn't take long for Jie Wushuang to completely refine the core of the array formation. No. Shi family attaches great importance to the core of the array formation. They even didn't hesitate to fall out with Jie family. How could they be willing to let Jie Wushuang refine the core of the array formation? They must have a backup plan. Ling Xiao's eyes flickered as he felt that something was wrong. But where was the backup plan of Shi family? Ling Xiao couldn't figure it out. After all, Jie Wushuang was surrounded by a dozen or so immortal venerable elders. It was impossible for an ordinary person to break through their blockade and seize the core of the array formation. Even if an immortal monarch expert came, the dozen or so immortal venerables would be able to hold on for a while. Unless, Ling Zhao's body trembled as he suddenly thought of something. His gaze fell on the dozen or so immortal venerable elders of Jie family. Jie Wushuang, be careful of the immortal venerable elders of Jie family. Ling Xiao suddenly bellowed. He finally knew what was wrong. Shi Wuji and the dozen or so elders of Shi family were too calm, as if they weren't worried about Jie Wushuang refining the core of the array formation. Unless Shi family was sure that Jie Wushuang couldn't refine the core of the array formation. The spy. Among the dozen or so immortal venerable elders of Jie family, there was a spy of Shi family. This was Ling Zhao's first reaction. Therefore, he immediately reminded Jie Wushuang and leaped across the sky, giving up on continuing the battle with Shi Wuji and the others. But it was still too late. Rumble. Just as Ling Zhao's voice fell, the three immortal venerable elders of Jie family behind Jie Wushuang revealed incomparably ferocious killing intent on their faces. Their terrifying palm prints seemed to be able to shatter everything as it directly imprinted on Jie Wushuang's back. Boom! Jie Wushuang's body bloomed with dazzling light. That was the power of a defensive immortal weapon. Jie Wushuang's dress was an incomparably powerful defensive immortal weapon. After encountering a sneak attack, it automatically activated its defensive power to resist the attack of the three immortal venerables. However, the long-awaited attack of the three celestial venerable elders was not something a mere defensive celestial artifact could withstand. Jie Wushuang's body shook violently as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly became extremely pale. The black and white bead at the core of the array formation was also spinning and was instantly caught in the palm of one of the immortal venerable elders. How dare you! Traitor, how dare you betray Jie family! Shameless villain, leave the core of the array formation behind. Kill them. At this moment, the dozen immortal venerable elders of Jie family finally reacted. Each of them was infuriated. Their eyes were filled with flames of fury as they leaped across the sky and charged towards the three immortal venerable elders. They had never thought that there would be a spy among the elders of Jie family. Jie Wushuang was caught off guard and suffered heavy injuries. Not only was the refinement of the core interrupted, it was also snatched away by the three traitors. Retreat. After obtaining the core of the array formation, the three immortal venerable elders no longer lingered in the battle. They instantly soared into the sky and fled frantically towards the distance. At this moment, Shi Wuji and the dozen immortal venerable elders of Shi family had a crazed look in their eyes as they pounced towards Ling Xiao without fear of death, blocking him from rescuing Jie Wushuang. The situation took a turn for the worse. Chapter 2956. Rumble. The dozen immortal venerable elders of Shi family exuded a terrifying aura. Their immortal light was dazzling, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. Their glabella glowed and flames rose from their bodies. Their eyes were filled with madness. Their aura skyrocketed as they surrounded Ling Xiao fearlessly. They all knew how powerful Ling Xiao was. He was so powerful that more than a dozen immortal venerables were no match for him. However, the core of the formation was too important. No matter what, it couldn't fall into the hands of Jie family. Therefore, for the sake of the core, they launched a suicidal attack without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. The dozen immortal venerables chose to self-detonate, each of them bursting into dazzling light. Then, like the sun, they exploded in the void. In order to stop Ling Xiao, they were willing to pay any price. Ling Xiao originally wanted to chase after the three traitorous elders of Shi family, but he didn't expect the people of Shi family to be so crazy. Even though Ling Xiao wanted to use a teleportation secret technique to distance himself, he couldn't stop the self-detonation of an immortal venerable. Almost instantly, he was engulfed by the twisting explosion. Among the dozen immortal venerable experts, other than a few immortal venerable elders who were protecting Shiwuji, there were 9 immortal venerable elders who chose to self-detonate. Lei Ling should be dead, right? Shiwuji, who was under the protection of a few immortal venerable elders, said fearfully as he watched the scene of the 9 immortal venerables exploding. He was completely afraid of Lei Ling. Shiwuji was also a genius in the immortal world, but after the battle with Ling Xiao, he was almost beaten to the point of doubting his life. Lei Ling was too strong. It was an invincible strength. Lei Ling had even left a shadow in Shiwuji's heart. However, with 9 immortal venerable elders self-detonating at the same time, Lei Ling should be dead for sure, right? It should be. Shiwuji told himself in his heart. At the same time, his heart was bleeding. Those were 9 immortal venerable elders. Even with Shi family's strong foundation, it wasn't easy to cultivate 9 immortal venerable elders. This was the foundation of Shi family, and it had to be destroyed because of Ling Xiao. Young master, this is the core of the formation. The 3 defected immortal venerable elders of Shi family flew to Shiwuji's side and respectfully handed the black and white bead to him. You guys have done well. Thank you for your hard work. Shiwuji suppressed the thoughts in his heart, and a trace of excitement appeared in his eyes. He took a deep breath and took the black and white bead. This was the core of the immortal coalescence emperor array. As long as he refined it, he would be able to completely control the immortal coalescence emperor array. Protect me. Don't let anyone disturb me. Shiwuji's eyes flashed. He immediately sat down with his legs crossed. Blazing immortal light rose around him as he began to refine the core of the formation. The remaining 6 immortal venerables of Shi family and the 3 immortal venerables of Jie family surrounded Shiwuji, looking around vigilantly. They were at the edge of the formation space. If it wasn't for the fact that refining the core of the formation had to be done here in order to control the immortal coalescence emperor array, they would have chosen to leave the formation space long ago. Even so, they were incomparably vigilant. After all, they didn't know whether Lei Ling was dead or alive. Although Jie Wushuang of Jie family was severely injured, the elders of Jie family still had their full strength. If a battle really broke out, it would probably be a fierce one. Rumble. The formation shook violently, causing the surrounding space to tremble. The scorching light in the space gradually receded, and the storm from the explosion gradually dispersed, revealing the scene within. What? The immortal venerable elders of Shi family trembled. Their pupils constricted, revealing an incomparably horrified expression. Boom, boom, boom. The void trembled violently. A glowing figure walked out of the divine light storm. His whole body was shrouded in immortal light, and his qi was powerful and unfathomable. It was Ling Xiao. His robe was whiter than snow, his black hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were dazzling. There were terrifying light beams shooting out from his eyes, as if he wasn't injured at all. Shi family? Since you all want to die so much, then all of you can die. And I hate traitors the most. As members of Jie family, you all actually defected to Shi family. This is unforgivable. On behalf of Jie Wushuang, I sentence you all to death. Ling Xiao's voice was like blazing thunder. His body exuded a vast qi, as if it could push the sun, the moon, and the stars. The heavenly might was vast and unfathomable. Protect the young master. The 9 immortal venerables beside Shiwuji looked incomparably solemn. Terrifying qi rose from their bodies and formed a powerful battle formation, protecting Shiwuji in the middle. Ling Xiao was too powerful. Even the self-destruction of 9 immortal venerables didn't hurt him at all. This kind of strength made them feel a little desperate. Kill. Ling Xiao roared as he threw a punch at the Shi family members. As long as he killed the people of Shi family, including Shiwuji, no one would be able to stop Jie Wushuang from refining the core of the formation. At this moment, although the elders of Jie family were incomparably furious, they couldn't participate in the battle because Jie Wushuang was severely injured. They had to protect her. After being attacked by 3 immortal venerables, Jie Wushuang's physical body and primordial spirit were on the verge of shattering. Her face was incomparably pale. She sat cross-legged in the void and consumed a healing immortal pill to heal her injuries. Mr. Lei Ling, please avenge our miss. Mr. Lei Ling, kill the 3 traitors. Everyone has the right to kill those who betray the family. Mr. Lei Ling, from today onwards, Jie family will be at odds with Shi family and Alcade immortal sect. The immortal venerables and elders of Jie family shouted one after another. Their eyes were filled with flames of anger. Ling Zhao's eyes were cold. His attack was as fast as lightning, like a tiger roaring in the forest, as he charged towards the 9 immortal venerables. It wasn't that he wasn't injured just now. Although Ling Zhao's primordial immortal body was incomparably powerful, the self-destruction of immortal venerables was comparable to the all-out attack of an immortal monarch expert. Moreover, the self-destruction of 9 immortal venerables had caused Ling Zhao quite a lot of injuries. Protect the Mr. The 9 immortal venerables roared. Their eyes were filled with incomparable determination as they pounced towards Ling Zhao. How dare you! At this moment, a clap of thunder exploded in the void. Rumble! The space of the formation was torn apart. An elder with white hair and beard came out of the void, exuding a monstrous and bold chi fluctuation. It was filled with a powerful emperor's aura. His eyes were like lightning, and the chi around him was unfathomable. It was as if he was stepping on the moonlight. His robe fluttered in the wind, giving him a celestial demeanor and extraordinary appearance. As soon as he appeared in the space of the formation, the eyes of the immortal venerables and elders of Shi family were filled with incomparable surprise. Third Sect Master. Chapter 2957. Greetings, Supreme Elder. The immortal Reverend Elders of Shi family bowed respectfully. He was an immortal monarch expert. He was the Supreme Elder of Shi family, Shi Qingchuan. He had been cultivating in seclusion and his strength was unfathomable. This time, he had also appeared when Shi family and Jie family started a war. However, he didn't participate in the war outside. Instead, he tore open the array space and entered to protect Shi Wuji. You all protect Wuji. I'll kill this shameless thief. Shi Qingchuan said coldly. Yes. The immortal Reverend Elders of Shi family retreated and heaved a sigh of relief. With the arrival of the Supreme Elder, it seemed like Lei Ling was going to die. Shi Qingchuan was a genuine immortal monarch expert. He was extremely powerful and had broken through to the immortal monarch realm hundreds of thousands of years ago. Rumble. Facing Ling Zhao's punch, Shi Qingchuan struck out with his palm. Dazzling immortal light gathered and collided with Ling Zhao's punch. The void shook violently and a loud boom sounded. Ling Zhao and Shi Qingchuan both trembled and retreated at the same time. Immortal monarch? He should be a 3rd heaven immortal monarch expert. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed and revealed a solemn expression. Immortal monarchs were also known as emperors in the divine world. They had gathered emperor's aura and comprehended the origin of great Tao. They were extremely powerful and were supreme existences that had touched the emperor realm. If it was a 1st heaven immortal monarch expert, Ling Zhao was confident that he could defeat or even kill him. However, experts at the 2nd and 3rd heavenly layers of the high immortal realm had already condensed their source bodies. Their physical bodies were extremely powerful, and their source energy was endless. They were far from what the 1st heavenly layer of the high immortal realm could compare to. Even Ling Zhao could feel the immense pressure. The old man in front of him was extremely powerful. At this moment, Ling Zhao realized that the situation wasn't right. Outside the array space, the experts of Old God Cult and Jie family were all at a disadvantage. Jie family's strength wasn't as strong as Shi family. However, they were still on par with Shi family in a life-and-death battle. Most importantly, Alcade Immortal Sect seemed to be prepared. Other than Dubhe Immortal Monarch, there were 3 other immortal monarchs. As for Old God Cult, there was only Madame Fuyao and another immortal monarch elder. Old God cult was at a disadvantage while Alcade Immortal sect was getting stronger and stronger. Immortal Monarch sect had suppressed the ancient God cult and Jie family. Now, Ling Xiao had been obstructed by Shi Qingchuan, and Shi Wuji was still refining the array formation core. Once Shi Wuji refined the array formation core, he would be able to borrow the power of the Immortal Coalescence Emperor array and wipe out the entire Xie family and Old God cult. He had to quickly defeat Shi Qingchuan and snatch the core of the array. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of cold killing intent. "Kid, you're the one who defeated Fearless? This old man will peel off your skin, pull out your tendons, and refine your primordial spirit. I'll see what kind of person you are." Shi Qingchuan stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Ling Xiao roared. Blazing celestial light rose from his body, and he charged toward Shi Qingchuan through the air. Rumble! Ling Xiao was surrounded by a terrifying murderous aura, causing the space around him to tremble violently. He took to the air and attacked. It was as if he had transformed into a peerless killing god, like a demon who had slaughtered billions of lives. His aura was extremely terrifying. Great culling immortal art. Ling Xiao directly used the supreme immortal technique. Because it was the great immortal culling art that had been passed down from the Imperial Jade Palace, Ling Xiao directly possessed the great immortal culling art at the Great Perfection Realm. The great culling immortal lord used the great culling immortal art to dominate the world. Countless immortal monarchs died in his hands. He was known as a peerless immortal lord. Although Ling Xiao didn't have the great culling immortal lord's cultivation, he had a strong foundation. Shi Qingchuan was shocked when he used the great culling immortal art. What immortal art is this? How can it contain such a strong murderous origin? Shi Qingchuan retreated quickly. His eyes were full of shock. He knew that this was definitely a supreme immortal art created by some immortal emperor. However, such a terrifying killing art was something he had never seen before in his life, causing him to tremble in fear. Rumble! Ling Xiao soared through the sky and attacked. His murderous aura permeated the air around him. Celestial light rose and transformed into billions of rays of sword light that interweaved into a destructive territory. At the same time, blazing lightning rose and vast heavenly might spread. It was the power of heavenly punishment that could destroy everything. Shi Qingchuan's expression was incomparably ugly. A terrifying divine light shot out from his eyes. An ancient sword instantly appeared in his hand. That was a quasi-emperor weapon, ancient and mysterious. It pierced through the air towards Ling Xiao. Sword chi rose and endless sword light spread. Shi Qingchuan seemed to have turned into a supreme sword immortal that controlled everything. However, the great culling immortal art was a sword art. Although it contained the murderous origin, it was extremely compatible with the immortal culling sword. It also contained the sword art origin. Although Shi Qingchuan was wielding a quasi-emperor weapon, the hundreds of millions of sword chi that he unleashed were all destroyed upon contact. Ling Xiao's figure shot across the sky like lightning. He quickly approached Shi Qingchuan and punched. Close combat was Ling Xiao's advantage. Ling Xiao's primordial immortal body was extremely strong. Shi Qingchuan was stronger than Ling Xiao in terms of cultivation. However, his physical strength was not as strong as Ling Xiao's. Boom, boom, boom. Ling Xiao's punches were like dragons. Every punch was like a supreme star falling from the sky. It contained the power to destroy heaven and earth. Ling Xiao and Shi Qingchuan continued to collide. The murderous aura around Ling Xiao grew stronger and his understanding of the murderous origin became deeper. His attacks were as smooth as flowing water. However, there was an unparalleled ferocious aura. Ling Xiao and Shi Qingchuan turned into two balls of light in the void. They continued to collide. Every time they collided, there would be billions of dazzling lights. Go and snatch the array core. While Master Lei Ling is holding Shi Qingchuan back, we must not let Shi Wuji refine the array core. At this moment, Xie Wushuang woke up and said anxiously to the elders of the Xie family, "What about your injuries?" Someone asked hesitantly. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. If we let Shi Wuji refine the array core, we will all die. Xie Wushuang said quickly. All right. The immortal venerables of the Xie family also knew the seriousness of the matter. They soared into the sky and charged towards Shi Wuji. Protect Master. The 9 immortal venerables also went forward to prevent them from disturbing Shi Wuji's refinement of the array core. Rumble. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. These immortal venerables instantly collided with each other and an incomparably intense collision broke out. Third Sect Master. Chapter 2958. In the sky above the immortal ancient city, the heavens and earth shook as divine light rumbled. Madame Fuyao was fighting 2 immortal lords alone. Dubhe Immortal Lord and Tianxian Immortal Lord. They were the 2nd and 3rd strongest immortal lords among the 7 Big Dipper immortal lords. Their strength was terrifying. Even though Madame Fuyao was strong, she was still at a disadvantage under the joint attack of these 2 immortal lords. Something's wrong. Why would the Alcade Immortal Sect send out 4 of the 7 Big Dipper immortal lords? Would they pay such a high price for a mere Shi family? Madame Fuyao's eyes shone brightly as she thought. She instinctively felt that something was wrong. The Alcade Immortal Sect was not as strong as the old god cult. However, for this stone opening ceremony, the Alcade Immortal Sect had gone all out. They were willing to offend the old god cult to get the Shi family's loyalty. However, would the Shi family's loyalty really make the Alcade Immortal Sect pay such a high price? The Alcade Immortal Sect was not considered strong among the 9 immortal sects. They were weaker than the old god cult. Now, the Alcade Immortal Sect was determined to kill Madame Fuyao and the Jie family. They did not even think about the old god cult's revenge. Unless there were enough benefits for the Alcade Immortal Sect to fight against the old god cult, the Shi family was not enough. Could it be, there's some treasure in the immortal ancient city that the Alcade Immortal Sect must get? If there is, it can only be under the Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation. Madame Fuyao's eyes were deep as she looked at the immortal ancient city below. The Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation was extremely ancient and mysterious. Although the Jie family and the Shi family were the owners of the immortal ancient city, they had never investigated the secrets of the Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation. Even the old god cult did not find anything valuable and could only give up in the end. However, it seemed that this was not the case. The Immortal Coalescence Emperor formation might be suppressing an unparalleled treasure, which was why the Alcade Immortal Sect was willing to pay such a high price. Alcade Immortal Sect? You will never know the strength of the Immortal Sect. Since you want the treasure in the formation, I'll help you. I'm also curious about what's in it. Madame Fuyao sneered in her heart. Her eyes revealed a trace of madness as she made a decision in her heart. At this moment, whether it was Madame Fuyao, the celestial master elder of the ancient god cult, or the experts of the Jie family, all of them were at a disadvantage and seemed to be in imminent danger. After all, Alcade Immortal Sect and Shi family were determined to win this time. No matter what, they had to completely control the deity's Coalescence Emperor formation and kill all the experts from Xie family and ancient god cult. In the formation space, Shi Qingchuan and Ling Xiao were locked in a fierce battle. The immortal venerables of Shi family and immortal venerables of Jie family were engaged in an intense battle. Even Jie Wushuang, who had yet to fully recover, rushed towards Shi Wuji to stop him from refining the core of the formation. However, she was stopped by several immortal venerables of the Shi family. Shi Wuji was being protected by everyone as he rapidly refined the core of the array formation. However, if this trend continued, the ancient god cult and the Xie family would be in grave danger. Once Shi Wuji refined the core of the formation, they would be doomed. How could they stop Shi Wuji from refining the array core? From Madame Fuyao's point of view, it was very simple. Just destroy the core area. Although this would not be able to completely destroy the deity's Coalescence Emperor formation, it would cause a great disturbance to the Emperor formation. Even if Shiwuji refined the core of the formation, it would be difficult for him to control the deity's coalescence emperor formation. Rumble. Madame Fuyao's body bloomed with ancient and blazing divine light. Although she was extremely beautiful and had a voluptuous figure, her body contained an incomparably violent power like a volcano. She approached Tian Shu Immortal Lord and Tian Xian Immortal Lord at an extremely fast speed. Then, she exploded with an extremely powerful physical strength and blasted Tian Shu Immortal Lord and Tian Xian Immortal Lord away. In the palm of Madame Fuyao, a dazzling light shone, and in an instant, a strange arrow appeared. It looked like a divine dragon in the shape of a dragon, filled with 9-colored divine clouds. It was lifelike, ancient, and mysterious. The arrow let out a loud and clear dragon roar. It was vast, causing one's body to tremble and their faces to be filled with shock. The arrow instantly bloomed with 9-colored divine light. It shot out from Madame Fuyao's hand and headed towards the formation space below the deity's ancient city. This is the 9-dragon celestial arrow. It's not easy to devour. Tian Shu Immortal Lord's body shook. His eyes were filled with shock as he roared. Rumble. The 4 immortal lords of Alcade Immortal Sect gave up on their opponents at the same time. Their auras rose and instantly formed a strong defensive barrier. They supported the formation space and wanted to stop the 9-dragon celestial arrow. The 9-dragon celestial arrow was a one-time use extreme Dao Emperor weapon. The 9-dragon celestial arrow was a unique treasure of the ancient god sect. Legend had it that it was created by a great emperor of the ancient god sect, the 9-dragon celestial emperor. It contained an unparalleled extreme Dao Emperor weapon. Its power was comparable to a great emperor's attack. The 9-dragon celestial arrow was rare even in the ancient god sect. It was considered a rare treasure. The 4 immortal lords of Alcade Immortal Sect did not expect Madame Fuyao to be so crazy as to activate the 9-dragon celestial arrow. If the 9-dragon celestial arrow completely destroyed the deity's coalescence emperor formation, not only would Shiwuji not be able to control the emperor formation, but the treasure in the emperor formation would also be damaged. Lunatic, she's really a lunatic. Tian Shu Immortal Lord cursed in anger. However, even if the 4 immortal lords joined forces, they still could not stop the 9-dragon celestial arrow. A crisp sound rang out. The surrounding void shook and the heaven and earth roared. In an instant, the defensive barrier formed by the 4 immortal lords shattered. The formation space was also pierced through by the 9-dragon celestial arrow. The 9-dragon celestial arrow was surrounded by 9-colored light. It was like a 9-colored divine dragon as it pierced through the vast land. It wanted to completely destroy this area. Rumble. However, at this moment, the deity's coalescence emperor formation seemed to feel the threat of the 9-dragon celestial arrow and was instantly awakened. Vast extreme Dao Emperor aura roared like the sea, causing the heaven and earth to tremble violently. The 9-dragon celestial arrow collided with the deity's coalescence emperor formation in an instant. Rumble. A huge explosion erupted in an instant. Endless divine light blazed and rose, turning into lightning and flames. It was like a volcanic eruption. It was a horrifying scene that looked like the end of the world. At this moment, everyone in the formation space was affected. When the horrifying wave came, everyone's body shook violently. Blood spurted out of their mouths as if they were being suppressed by billions of immemorial divine mountains. Chapter 2959. Has the immortal coalescence emperor formation been destroyed? The same thought appeared in everyone's mind, and their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Rumble. But at this moment, in the depths of the great sovereign, within the immortal coalescence emperor formation, an incomparably terrifying divine light of slaughter soared up, containing an ancient power. Billions of sword lights shot out, completely annihilating the power of the 9 dragons' heavenly arrow. The slaughter divine light pierced through the heavens and the earth, as if it was the first sword chi that split the heavens and the earth. It was extremely sharp and could destroy everything. Everyone's expression was incomparably solemn as they felt a force that made their scalps tingle. This is the birth of the supreme treasure? The immortal lord shuddered. Then he revealed an overjoyed expression and became extremely excited. Collect the supreme treasure. As the immortal lord roared, the 4 immortal lords from the Alcade immortal sect and the 3 immortal lords from the Shur family all leaped up and flew towards the source of the slaughter divine light. They felt a boundless killing aura from there. That was the fluctuation of a supreme treasure, which made them incomparably excited. The people from the Alcade immortal sect gave up on killing Madame Fuyao and the Jia family and rushed towards the formation space without caring about anything else. They wanted to snatch the supreme treasure. Snatch the treasure! Madame Fuyao's eyes flashed, and in an instant, she leaped into the air like a peerless goddess. Her speed was extremely fast, and she also moved away. She had guessed correctly. What the Alcade immortal sect valued was not the Shur family, but the supreme treasure that was suppressed in the immortal coalescence emperor formation. She just did not know what the supreme treasure that could release such a terrifying slaughter origin aura was. Why is this slaughter origin aura similar to the immortal skill that Lei Ling used before? A question flashed through Madame Fuyao's mind. Not only Madame Fuyao, but the immortal lords from the Alcade immortal sect and the Shur family were also puzzled. At this moment, Ling Xiao, who was using the Great Slaughter immortal skill, felt an extremely familiar aura from the depths of the earth. It was a kind of intimate call, as if a wanderer who had left home for a long time had seen his parents, and it was full of attachment and reluctance. This is the aura of the great culling immortal art? Ling Xiao was slightly taken aback, and a strange look appeared in his eyes. Rather than calling it to him, it would be more accurate to call it to the great immortal slaying art. Ling Xiao could sense that some sort of treasure was trying to rush out from the depths of the earth. Could it be? A thought appeared in Ling Xiao's mind. Rumble. At this moment, the 4 immortal monarchs of the Alcade immortal sect, Madame Fuyao, and the immortal monarchs of the Jia and Shur clans all rushed towards the array space. A huge abyss appeared in the space of the matrix. It seemed to have been created by the 9 dragon arrows, but it also seemed to have been created by the power of the slaughter origin deep in the earth. Many immortal lords had just arrived in front of the abyss, and before they had time to check out the treasures in the abyss, they felt an extremely terrifying aura rushing out from the abyss. Rumble! A heaven-piercing slaughter divine light shot up to the 9 heavens again. The blazing divine light was dazzling, immortal light filled the air, and auspicious vapors rose. Everyone could see an ancient sword exuding an endless murderous aura in the middle of the blazing light pillar, blooming with a vast emperor's aura. It really is the immortal slaying sword. Stop, Fuyao, the immortal slaying sword belongs to me. The immortal monarch's eyes revealed a trace of ecstasy. He instantly soared into the sky and tried to grab the ancient sword. The immortal slaying sword? Devour! At this moment, Ling Xiao's eyes also revealed an extremely strange light. He exuded a vast killing aura, and the great immortal slaying art was activated, causing him to exude an endless killing intent. The supreme treasure suppressed in the immortal coalescence emperor formation was, as Ling Xiao had guessed, the immortal slaying sword. It was an emperor's weapon of the same origin as the great immortal slaying art. It was one of the 4 swords of the heavenly reaching emperor, the immortal slaying sword. The immortal monarch was about to grab the immortal slaying sword, but the sword turned into a stream of light and quickly fell into Ling Xiao's palm. No! The immortal monarch roared, his eyes filled with unwillingness. This was the supreme emperor's weapon, the immortal slaying sword, and it had fallen into Ling Xiao's hands. This was the supreme treasure that the Alcade immortal sect could not forget. It had been suppressed in the immortal coalescence emperor formation for many years, and the Alcade immortal sect had planned for countless years, but now it was all in vain. The immortal monarch finally knew why Ling Xiao's aura was so similar to the immortal slaying sword. It was because Ling Xiao had cultivated the great immortal slaying art. Rumble! Ling Xiao held the immortal slaying sword in his hand, and his body bloomed with endless light. The surging killing aura filled the air, and all of it turned into slaughter sword qi, forming a sword domain around Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's aura was monstrous, like the reincarnation of the omnipotent great emperor. He exuded an invincible aura, and everyone was shocked. My Lei Lang is so powerful. He actually cultivated the great immortal slaying art. Madame Fuyao's beautiful eyes glowed as she muttered to herself with a smile. This was a supreme immortal technique, one of the 4 great emperor techniques of the omnipotent great emperor. The heavenly immortal sect had been searching for it for countless years, but they did not expect it to fall into Ling Xiao's hands. And Ling Xiao was now a member of the old god cult. This turn of events stunned the experts of the old god cult and the Jie family, especially Jie Wushuang and Shi Wuji. They had been fighting to the death for the core of the formation, but now they realized that the core of the formation had collapsed directly. The immortal slaying sword was the core of the immortal coalescence emperor formation. It turned out that the Jie family and the Shi family had never truly controlled this supreme emperor formation. Hand over the immortal slaying sword, or die. Dubhe immortal master roared, his hair and beard fluttering. His eyes were filled with the flames of jealousy as he pounced towards Ling Xiao. His emperor's aura filled the air, and his aura was incomparably terrifying. When his palm fell from the sky, it was as if a galaxy was hidden in his palm, causing his palm to contain the power of billions of galaxies. It was terrifying to the extreme. You want the immortal slaying sword? Then I'll give it to you, Ling Xiao said indifferently. Boom. He held the immortal slaying sword in his hand and executed the great immortal slaying art at the same time. His body bloomed with blazing slaughter origin as he slashed down. The sword qi swept across the heavens and the stars in the sky were chopped down at the same time. This sword seemed to have pierced through time and space and turned into the only eternity. It directly destroyed the huge palm print in the void and then mightily chopped down on the chest of the Dubhe immortal lord. Sword light illuminates the 10 worlds. Dubhe immortal master spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body flew out. Dubhe immortal master was defeated by a single sword. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.